Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I shall not stumble. You make firm my steps, for you hold me in your hand. My strength is renewed as I walk in the power of your name. You will praise me with one wings of the eagle. As I soar, I will soar with you. Fear not, Israel. Fear not, Israel. Yahuah is with you. Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I shall not stumble. You make firm my steps, for you hold me in your hand. My strength is renewed as I walk in the power of your name. And you will praise me upon wings of eagle. And as I soar, I will soar with you. Fear not, Israel. Fear not, Israel. Yahuah is with you. And you will praise me on wings of eagle. And as I soar, I will soar with you. Fear not, Israel. Fear not, Israel. Yahuah is with you. Fear not, Israel. 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 Yahuah is with you. Yahuah is with you.
Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuah our Elohim. Yahuah is one. And you shall love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. And the second one is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Hello, everybody. Shabbat Shalom, beloved of Yahuah. Get everything straightened around here. All right. Wow, what a great week it's been. The weather's been great. The horses are training up just fine, making lots of leadway with the training of the yearlings. And I'm happy to see Yom Shabbat coming. It's a delight. It's a very extremely important day of the week. I would say the most important, because we get to obey Yahuah. You ever think about that? We get to obey Yahuah. Yeah, I mean, it's an extremely important command, the fourth command. And probably it's the most outward sign of our obedience that there is, really, out of the 10 Debarim, or Yahuwah's witnesses. And because it's pretty obvious that we're obeying that command. When we're resting on Yom Shabbat, we won't go anywhere. We won't buy or sell anything. So it becomes very, very obvious to people who we serve and who we belong to. So it's a fantastic day. I really, really enjoy it. It's not the only command that we obey, for sure, but it may be one of the most focal commands that we focus on. I think that we have to focus on. That's why he told us to that we need to remember it, because we need to not only remember it, that we need to rest on it, but we need to stay focused on Yom Shabbat the entire day, or we could slip up, right? We could do something we shouldn't do. If we're sitting there surfing the net, we'll say, surfing the web, and all of a sudden we see something we like and we buy it and forgot it was Yom Shabbat, then we would have to rebuke and repent of that and continue to keep the Shabbat. Just because we made a mistake doesn't mean we trashed the whole Shabbat. And then that helps teach us as well, hey, maybe we shouldn't be on the internet during Yom Shabbat. Maybe we should not be doing things that could cause us to forget and get involved in other things. Then we forget, and before we know it, we've broke Yom Shabbat, and we're on our knees repenting of doing so, right? So anyway, a very important day. It's so important, really. I mean, if we look into Exodus 31 real quick, it tells us how important this day really is. You want to, if you got BYNV, go to Exodus 31, verse 12 real quick. I know it's just, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but this is an important conversation. So it says, starting at verse 12, and Yahuah spoke to Moses, saying, and you speak to the children of Israel, saying, my Sabbaths you are to guard by all means, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, to know that I, Yahuah, am setting you apart. So it helps us get set apart, or it confirms that we're set apart by Yahuah. And you shall guard the Shabbat, for it is set apart to you. Everyone who profanes it will certainly be put to death. Maybe no longer in this carbon copy world we're living in. It used to be they would put them to death if they caught them working on it or on the Shabbat. But now, of course, they wouldn't kill you if you're working on Shabbat, because the world wants you to work on Yom Shabbat, right? But this could be just a shadow or a type that's pointing to what? The lake of fire. So it could be that too. And the lake of fire would be the reality, right? Everyone profanes it will certainly be put to death in the lake of fire. You could still suffer death for it. So you're not off the hook by any means, or any stretch of the imagination, really. For anyone who does work on it, that being shall be cut off from among his people, which is Yisrael, the elect, the election. 6 Yamim work is done, and on the 7th is Shabbat of rest, set apart to Yahuah. So it's set apart to Yahuah as well. Everyone doing work on the Yom Shabbat shall certainly be put to death, if not in this lifetime, definitely on the second resurrection. You'll be judged being a disobedient or a worthless servant, be thrown in the lake of fire, and you'll suffer the second death because you're breaking Yom Shabbat. It's not a joke. It's a very serious matter. And the children of Yisrael shall guard the Shabbat to observe the Shabbat throughout their generations as an everlasting covenant. So there you go. It's everlasting covenant. When Yahuah says something's everlasting, he means what he says and says what he means. It means it's from everlasting to everlasting. It will always be valid. The other thing here that jumped out at me real quick here was to observe Shabbat throughout their generations as everlasting covenant, and the children of Yisrael. Why we always call it children? Because we have to accept and believe in Yahuah and accept his commands and believe in his promises as a little child would. So we don't really grow up. We remain children of Yahuah, the children of Israel, so because we believe as a child believes. Children are given perfect belief until their belief is destroyed by adults, by lying to them about holidays, such as Christmas and Easter Bunny and stuff. You ruin the child's perfect belief given to him from birth from Yahuah. Best that a millstone be hung around your neck and you'd be thrown out into the ocean. That's not a good thing either, to ruin a child's perfect belief. So we have to remain children. We don't get to grow up, Netzarim. We remain the children of Yisrael and believe as a child in order to get into the reign of Yahuah. That's a different subject. Maybe someday we'll go over that a little bit deeper. Between me, this is Yahuah now, between me and the children of Yisrael, it is a sign forever. What does that mean, a sign forever? It's a sign that you have entered into the everlasting covenant. It's the sign of that you have entered into a marriage contract, blood contract with Yahuah. It's the sign. If you rest on Yom Shabbat, that signals, that's a sign to everyone who you serve, and who you obey is who you serve. If you disobey and you obey man, then you're serving man. If you disobey and you rest on the sun's day, well, maybe you're obeying the sun deity. If you're doing it on the 6th day, maybe you're obeying the moon deity. So it's vital that we rest on Yahuah's day of rest, Yom Shabbat, the 7th day. It's a sign forever that you have entered into the renewed covenant or the everlasting covenant with Yahuah. For in 6 Yamim Yahuah made the Shemayim and the Arats, and on the 7th Yom he rested and was refreshed. And when he had ended speaking with him on Mount Sinai, he gave Moses 2 tablets of the witness. See that? So if you ever read Psalms 119 or in some other passages and you see talking about the witness, he loves their witness and all this. This is the 10 Debarim, the 10 Commandments, the 2 tablets of stone, or the witnesses. So he gave Moshe 2 tablets of the witness, tablets of stone, written with the finger of Elohim. So there you go. You can also research and read Psalms 119 if you would like, and get a better understanding of the witnesses. Okay, so we got off on that tangent. We're going to get back off of it now. It's not even Shabbat here yet. It's still daylight where I'm at. I don't know about y'all, but this Shabbat talk here, I would like for us to study together about the two men that did not die in Scripture. Scripture tells us that these two men did not die. There's a lot of twists and spins on this throughout different sects of Christianity and Islam. But the more you study about it, the more you'll come into agreement that Scripture teaches us that these two men did not die. And obviously, we all know who they are. One is Enoch, the other is Elijah. So that's what we're going to be studying about this evening. And it's a really good study because once we really get into it, we find out there's a lot more detail and a lot more spiritual insight about these two men than maybe we ever knew or realized before. All right, so we'll start off with Enoch. Now, Enoch was pre-flood era. So he was the seventh from Adam, seventh generation from Adam. Wasn't too far off into creation when Enoch came. And he was the great-grandfather of Noah. So 3 generations later came the flood. So Enoch is before the flood. Elijah is after the flood. Enoch, some consider him to be a prophet, but I'm not real sure if we can find anything that says he was a prophet. And so we'll research that later and see if we can find him to be a prophet. And then we all know that Elijah was a prophet. So Elijah will be after the flood, after Noah. Elijah's one of the prophets. He doesn't have his own book, but he's talked about quite a bit throughout the Scriptures. Now, Enoch does have his own book. It's called the Book of Enoch, or First Enoch, if you will, which was at one time was a part of the canonized list. And we're going to go through that because I think it's important. There's a lot of stuff in Enoch that is way, in my opinion, way off base. But there's a lot of stuff in Enoch that is not. And so it's going to become a great study here. You guys stick with me on it. And I know we all have our opinions, but that's why we do these type of studies, so that things that can be mentioned or come up that perhaps we've never thought about before, never ran across before, they give us a little bit better perspective of the overall picture and lead us to more truth. After all, it's all about truth, is it not? We have to find truth before we can find love. And truth is what finds love. Once we've reached a fulfillment, a certain amount of truth, it will definitely lead us to love, which is Yahuah. Okay. A lot more about Elijah than there is Enoch. But like I said, Enoch is only the 7th generation from Adam, so no doubt, and that only makes sense, right? And so before we get started, let me just say hello to a few people here. Dave Messenger, glad you're here, brother. Peggy Russell, glad you're here, sister. Yami and Ruel, glad you are here. Isaiah DS, glad you're here, brother. My old time friend. Latter Rain, glad you're here. Caroline Begner, glad you're here. Oh, that's a beautiful area up there in the mountains of Arkansas. Phyllis and Lou White, glad you're here. Jules Ann, glad you're here. Diane Branch, glad to see you, sister. Juanita Phillips, glad to see you, Mom. Maria, hey, shalom, glad to see you, Maria. Colin, glad to see you. Earl, glad you're here, brother. All right. If I miss anybody coming in and out of the chat room, you're welcome here. We love you. Thank you for coming. And I'm sorry if I miss you and don't recognize you. Sometimes I get so deep into the scriptures here that I forget to look over there. So just overlook my incompetence as far as that goes. And let's get started on scripture now. I like to say, don't pay attention to how I'm saying things. Just pay attention to what I'm saying. All right. I didn't ask for this job. Okay. Yahuah chose me to do this job. I'm only obeying him. I'm not out to make a big scene. I'm not out to pick up followers. I'm not out to act like I know more than anybody else. I'm just trying to study scriptures with y'all, with other Nazarene and people that are interested in finding truth and speaking truth. Because when we do that, we esteem Yahuah. And that's what we all should be more concerned with, not each other. All right. So it's never about a man. It's never about one person. It's always about Yahuah. Okay. Joseph, glad you're here, brother. All right. So enough babbling. Let's get into our Torah lesson this evening and study it together. We're not going to hit our Torah portion until we get into Elijah, okay? We're going to start with Enoch. Now, Enoch is a real person. Enoch catches a lot of flack because of the books of Enoch. And there's a lot of division over the books of Enoch, and rightly so. I can understand why. And if you've ever read them, you can also see why. Some of it's really, really quite out there, but some of it is not, to be fair. Okay, so let's start off in Genesis. I think where Enoch is first mentioned, it would be in Genesis 5. I'm in the BYNV. And if you don't have the BYNV, use whatever translation you have, but maybe try to strive or plan on getting a good translation that's restored Hebrew, because the scriptures come more alive and they become more simple to understand when you eliminate all the intermittent languages such as Greek, Latin, German, and even Old English. And other stuff, Ethiopian, there are other ones, okay? But we're not going to get into. We'll get into that a little bit here at the end of Enoch here, but it's not what we're going to study about this evening. So let's go to verse 18, Genesis 5, verse 18. And Yared lived 162 years and brought forth Enoch. And after he brought forth Enoch, Yared lived 800 years and brought forth sons and daughters. So all the Yamam of Yared was 962 years, and he died. And Enoch lived, it's really Kanak, but I'm going to say Enoch because that's what most of us are familiar hearing, okay? To keep everybody on track here. And Enoch lived 65 years and brought forth Methuselah. And after he brought forth Methuselah, Enoch walked with Elohim 300 years. So now he's 365 years old, right? Right. And brought forth sons and daughters. So Enoch had sons and daughters. So all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And Enoch walked with Elohim. Then he was no more, for Elohim took him. So there we go. That's the first we hear about Enoch. Interesting, is it not? So this is fairly clear now, to me anyways, that Enoch did not die. But Elohim took him at 365 years old. Now don't forget, Enoch was the great grandfather of Noah, or the seventh generation from Adam and Yahuah. Okay? So that's our first exposure to Enoch right there. And then when we go to, we get into First Chronicles, we can see that he's the seventh from Adam here in this lineage here that it presents us with, genealogy here. It's right on the first chapter, verse 1. Adam, Sheth, Anash, Queen Anne, Halaliah, Yared, and then Enoch. So then then you have Methuselah, Lamech, and then Noah. So that would be his son. That would be his grandson, Lamech, and then Noah would be his great-grandson. So that makes Enoch the great-grandfather of Noah, and he's the seventh generation from Adam. And that confirms that. So we know who he is. Okay. So, and don't forget now, this is Enoch, lived before the flood, before Moshe, before the Torah, before Yahusha, before any of that, before Elijah. Did Enoch die in the flood? No, he was taken before the flood came. Some think, I'm going to say Hebrew tradition, let's call it that Enoch was taken by Yahuah and placed somewhere so that he could pray for humanity. He offers intercessor prayers for humans, for mankind. And if that's true, boy, that's an amazing statement, you know. But he must really know how to pray and have a really good communication skills with Yahuah, if that is true. If you ever think about it, I don't know if it's in the 66 canonized, but someone did say that it's mentioned in one of the books of Enoch. But I don't know. I've never read it myself, but I have heard that somewhere. Somewhere I heard that. But anyway, let's go to Yahuchanan or John 8. And this is supposed to be, this could be a type or shadow referring to Enoch and Elijah, both. It says in chapter 8, verse 51, says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, If anyone guards my word, so this is Yahushua speaking, he shall never see death at all. That's a powerful statement. Now, some say, well, that means that's just relating to Yahushua saying that because to Yahuah, we're all asleep. Nobody's died yet. Everybody's just sleeping. So nobody really sees death at all until the second death. And the second resurrection, if you're judged wrong, then you see the second death, which will be death. But if you guard his word, you will not see death, the second death. You'll be set apart from that, and you'll never see true death or total annihilation. You've only had fallen asleep the first time around. Some think that this is pertaining to that. And it probably is on a literal sense. But on a spiritual sense, or a shadow versus reality, a type and antitype, if you will, this could be very well be the shadow or the type, and the reality could be Enoch and Elijah not dying. Because why? Because they guarded his word. They listened to what he said. Did Elijah have the Torah? The prophets and the writings, the Tanakh? Yeah. He came after Moses. Didn't he not? Did Enoch have the Tanakh? No. He came before Moses. Matter of fact, he came before the flood. So this could be that. And if we look at if we look at John 11:26, it says, and everyone that is living and believing in me shall never die at all. Do you believe this? So this again, at first looks like what? It's like a statement that's saying, huh? All men die. Huh? Okay, so this is what pertained to what we just talked about. Same exact thing over in 8:51. Okay, it could be literally, could be meaning because we all fall asleep. The first death is not death, but just sleep. The second death is total annihilation and is death for the wrong, but the right will never see the second death. It will be given immortality and live forever. Okay, literally. Spiritually can mean the same thing as we talked about before. It could be pointing to the reality of Enoch and Elijah never died because they guarded his word. So the second occurrence there of that broad statement. And the fact that he says, do you believe this? Okay, there has to be some kind of truth to it. And generally speaking, probably more than one truth. Depends on how far we want to allow him to open our minds to understand the scriptures. Okay, so John 8:51 and John 11:26. Okay. All right. So the next reference to Enoch here is let me see, where would that? Okay, it's not there. Hang on. Yeah. Okay, let's go to Jude. Yahuah. Jude 1. Oh, there's only a 1. There's not a 2, so we have to go to 1. Jude 1. Very short little letter here by the half brother of Yahushua. Different dad, same mom. And there's two references to Enoch here. One is a quote extracted from the book of Enoch. And the other is a reference to Enoch and a quote from Enoch, chapter 2. Okay. And here's where they are. They're in Jude 1, and one of the quotes starts at verse 5. And it says, "But I intend to remind you, though you once knew this, that Yahuah, having delivered a people out of the land of Mitzrayim, or Egypt, afterward destroyed those who did not believe." The people out of the land of Mitzrayim afterwards destroyed those who did not believe. How'd that happen? When did that happen? During the golden calf, right? Yeah. And the messengers, what are the messengers? Malachim, angels. Okay. And the messengers who did not keep their own principality, what does that mean? They left their own kingdom. They left their own reign. They went into a foreign land, if you will. And the messengers who did not keep their own principality, they left their own reign and went to a different reign that didn't belong to them, basically, okay? But left their own dwelling. They left their own dwelling place, their own dimension, if you will. He has kept in everlasting shackles under darkness for the judgment of the great Yom. Okay, so what's going on here? Apparently, this is a partial quote from Enoch, and then they left their own prince and that principality and their own dwelling. He has kept them in everlasting shackles under darkness for the judgment of the great Yom is in Enoch. So it's a partial quote of Enoch. So what's the deal here? Well, the messengers came down and they mated with the daughters of men and animals. This is in Genesis. And they came down, they mated with the daughters of men, and they had children. Well, as we understand it, the children was destroyed the design of Yahuah's creatures. So it messed up their DNA. It was no longer the way Yahuah designed it to be. So they broke the barrier between how he designed the Malachim, the messengers, how he wanted them to be, and how he wanted humans to be. So since they mixed their DNA and had children, it was a trespass. Okay, they destroyed the DNA of the Creator and his creation. And so if anybody that's ever got into Enoch, then we know, the ones that have read Enoch knows what happened. They went to Enoch, the fallen messengers, and asked Enoch to go to Yahuah and ask him not to destroy their children. And then because they knew that Enoch was highly loved by Yahuah, right? And so he took the message to Yahuah, Enoch did, and Yahuah obviously said, "No way, Jose, ain't gonna do it." And then he grabbed these messengers who don't forget now, these are not mortal beings, these are immortal beings. They were made immortal, all right? And he shackled them up under darkness for the judgment of the great Yom, which would be the judgment day, right? Okay, somewhere in there it says that the elect's going to judge messengers or angels. So maybe these are the ones that the elect will be judging. And as far as the children goes, their children, their hybrid children and their wives, Well, they were destroyed with the great flood in Noah's time. And Noah took 100 years to build the ark, right? Some say 120, some say 100, some say 80, some say 50. But you always get in controversy. Almost in every subject, there's more than one. People have more than one opinion. Everybody knows everything. But generally speaking, it would be safe to say it took 100 years for Noah to build the ark, give or take a decade or two. And then, of course, the giants, the Nephilim, the children of the messengers, when the hybrid children were all destroyed in the flood. Okay? That's where that's coming from. That's all in Enoch. So Enoch's a real person. He ain't somebody we should snub. I mean, this was a beloved human being of Yahuah, man. I mean, he took him. He come with me. You're not going to die. I don't think it's somebody we should be talking ill about, really and truly. I mean, even, the Archangel Michael and Hashatan, the devil, when they argued over the body of Mojah, Michael didn't say anything derogatory about Satan, the devil. He just said, Yahuah rebuke you. Why? Because the devil's the creation of Yahuah. Why would you want to badmouth Yahuah's creation? Because if you do, then you're badmouthing the creator. So we got to be careful, man. We got to think what we're doing and what we're saying. And in my opinion, by the way, neither one of them got the body of Moses. Yahuah came down, took the body, and went and buried it himself somewhere. In case you didn't know that. Yeah, I would be very careful in talking about Enoch or Elijah, or Eleazar, about as far as that goes. Right? Lazarus, Eleazar, Yahuchanan, the Talmudim whom Yahusha loved. I'd be a little bit cautious about saying anything bad about that guy too. Or any brother and sister, really. Just think about yourself. How do you feel if someone says something about your children to you? Something bad. I know I don't like it. I'm sure none of you do either. I mean, they can talk about me like a dog, and I can take it pretty good. But when they start talking about my children, my feathers get ruffled up. And I think that's probably the same way Yahuah feels too, when people talk about his children or his creation, if you will. So we have to think harder about what we're saying about this. Just because we're in disagreement about some writings doesn't mean we should badmouth and put a voodoo and cast a spell on people or certain writings or whatever, or certain people, because we don't like what it's saying, or we don't better yet, we just don't understand because we didn't put the time and the research into it, as a lot of other people did. So we all need to get off our high horse, I think, and just take things for a grain of salt. Now, what I do sometimes, man, matter of fact, I do this a lot. People just don't know it. Sometimes they'll say something, or they'll throw something at me, and instead of me answering them and acting like a know-it-all, here, I can tell you that. I just act like I don't know. Okay, I don't know, man. Well, it does two things. It keeps me humble. It keeps them on the path because they think they know more than somebody else. So it helps them continue on the path, right? Keeps me humble and keeps friction and quarreling. You don't have to do that, man. Especially if it's not really a salvation issue. Let them have it. Let them have it. They'll find out differently a year or two, maybe a week later. You know, sometimes when the pressure's off, you can come back to that and explain it to them again, and without putting them on the spot and making them feel bad. But deep down inside, they'll remember, I asked about that a month or two back or something like that. But you're not putting them on the spot because they don't really know if you forgot about it or if you're referring to 2 months ago. See what I'm saying? And so sometimes it's okay just to let them have it and then come back, circle back around later and present them with the truth when they're not on the stage. You know, when you don't have them pinned in the corner. See what I'm saying? Just release it, man. Let them have it. Come back later. So, I mean, I do that a lot. And sometimes I just, believe it or not, I just stay quiet. I just keep quiet, man. I pretend like I know, but I pretend like I don't know for their benefit, you know, and for others so they don't stumble. And that's a good thing. I have a calling from Yahuah to present spiritual insight. And so sometimes I go farther than some people are willing to go in order to allow Yahushua to open people's minds to scripture if he wants to, you know. But believe me when I tell you, there's a lot of things I can say or I could say, but I don't. I just choose not to, you know. And they'll learn by Yahuah later on anyway. All right. So I'm not the big teacher and no one is, and we shouldn't follow anyone. There's no one person that we all should look to. Okay. We should look to Yahuah, and study on our own with the guidance of the Ruach HaKodesh. That's what we really should be doing. So anyway, same thing, Jude 1. Over here starts, I guess 14 and 15, we'll say, in Jude. As another, it mentions Enoch, and it also gives a quote from Enoch, chapter 2, verse 1, in the first book of Enoch, or the book of Enoch, same thing. There's other books of Enoch, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that are like an extension, or they call it the deeper books, you know, that I just kind of stay away from. I've read them all. You have to decide for yourself. I don't want to say anything bad against them, good or bad, other than I will say that they get weird, man, you know. And it could be just because they're weird because I'm weird. You know, I don't know. Maybe I just don't get it. You know what I'm saying? I just really didn't. I've never really studied Enoch deep enough to get past the weirdness of it, or the newness of it, if you will. Okay. But I have touched it. So, I mean, I know some. I know there's a lot of people out there just Enoch crazy, you know, but I'm not one of those. But I do respect Enoch because Enoch was a real person and he didn't die. Yahuah took him, man. So he's to me, he's a special person. And so is Elijah and perhaps Eleazar. You read about some really great characters in scripture and they all died, man. So, I mean, how more obedient, if you will, or how much more of a deeper relationship were these guys in with Yahuah not to have to die? I mean, it's mind blowing, man, if you really start thinking about it. So anyway, Jude 14, and Enoch, the seventh from Adam, also prophesied of these, saying, see, Yahuah comes with his myriads of set apart ones. Okay, so what's that talking about? This isn't Enoch. It's a quote from Enoch. Was the book of Enoch circulating before the Nazarene writings? Yes. The first book of Enoch, or the book of Enoch, circulated from, I believe, 300 BC to 300 AD. Pretty heavy, especially during Yahushua's time. Peter was a fanatic with Enoch. He quotes Enoch a lot, or references it. So it was very popular during the turn of the first century. After during the life of Yahushua and after, it was a very popular book. Can't deny that it wasn't. It was. And so, prophesied of these sayings, see Yahuah comes with his myriads of set apart ones. So what is that talking about? That's talking about the second coming of Yahushua. And when he comes back with his army, his myriads of set apart ones, that's his messengers. That's the Malachim, the angels coming back with him on his second coming, all on white horses. What happens to the election? Well, they get the first resurrection and change in the twinkling of an eye, and together they get caught up with Yahushua coming back on a white horse with this myriad of messengers, this great army, coming back to the Mount of Olives. So I hope he's bringing horses with no riders. So when we're resurrected, or if we're alive and get changed in the twinkling of an eye, get caught up with him, and them messengers coming back on them white horses, maybe we get a horse. We just go up there and jump on a horse, and we come back down on a horse. I hope so. I really do. Either that, or we're going to be riding double with somebody. One of the messengers, maybe ride double with one of them. But I got a sneaking feeling you're going to have a horse for us to get on. To execute judgment on all, to punish all who are wicked among them, concerning all their wicked works which they have acted in a wicked way, and concerning all the harsh words which wicked sinners have spoken against him. Wow, man. So you're going to get judged by your words. And here in particular, harsh words that you've spoken about him. So yeah, we're going to be judged by our words and our works. And this is a quote from Enoch right here. Most people don't realize that, but it is. Okay, so Jude was, I would say, hip on Enoch, man, because that little short letter references the book of Enoch twice, and then it even gives reference to Enoch. Okay, so let's go to Luke 3. We're running a little bit behind here. Okay, so Luke 3, verse 23. And when Yahushua himself began, he was about 30 years of age, being as reckoned by law the son of Joseph. Okay. So this is saying that when Yahushua was about 30, he started going around spreading his Besorah, telling, about everything, all the prophecies that he was fulfilling and all this and that. He started doing his miracles, signs and wonders and all that, and healing people, driving out demons. He's about 30 years old. He started. Being reckoned by law the son of Joseph, or Yusuf, that would be Mary's husband. And by law, that was his stepfather, is what this is saying. So it goes on down from there through chapter 3 to the bottom, And he's going through this genealogy, and apparently of his stepfather genealogy is what it appears to be doing. He gets down into Yaqub, Yitzhak, and Abraham. Goes on down, then you see Eber there, and then keeps on going of Shem, then of Noah, and then Lamech, and then Methuselah, and then of Enoch. So there he is in the line of Joseph, the stepfather of Yahusha. Enosh, Sheth of Adam, and then of Elohim. Ooh, look at that. Then of Elohim. Why? Because he's the father of all of us. He's the heavenly father. He's the creator of everybody. We all come from him. Matter of fact, I say we all have a piece of Elohim in us. Is what gives us life. Because he's the only one that has life. He's the life giver. He's sharing his life, his existence with us. That's why we have a reality. When for him, none of us would be here. He's sharing his life with us and giving us his breath, sharing his breath with us. He returns our breath. You ever think about that? As the scripture says, he returns our breath. Okay, so let's go over here now to 1 Peter 3. 1 Peter 3, and it would be verse 17. We'll start there. Go to the end. For it is better if it is the desire of Elohim to suffer for doing good than for doing evil. Because even Mashiach once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, to bring you to Elohim, having been put to death indeed in the flesh, but made alive in the Ruach, in which also he went and proclaimed to the Ruachs in prison, who were disobedient at one time when the patience of Elohim waited in the Yamam of Noah. Okay, so we have to look at this really close, man. We can't read through this really fast. We got to think about what we're reading here. So, in which he also went and proclaimed to the Ruachs in prison. So here we go. His Yahusha's flesh is laying still, lifeless, and his Ruach has just left and proclaimed it to the Ruachs in prison somewhere. All right, everybody with me on that? Who were disobedient, so these Ruachs in prison were disobedient at one time. At some time, some point, these Ruachs in prison. What's a Ruach? A spirit, right? At one time when the patience of Elohim, so the patience of Elohim waited. So here he's, all right, so here they are. They're Ruachs in prison. They were disobedient at one time, okay? And the patience of Elohim waiting in the days of Noah. So when the patience of Elohim waited in the days of Noah. For what? For Noah to complete the ark that took approximately 100 years. So here we go. These Ruachs were disobedient before the flood. They were already in prison before the flood. Not after the flood. Before the flood. The Ruachs were in prison who were disobedient at one time before the flood. When the patience of Elohim waited in the Yamam of Noah for what? For Noah to build the ark. So these Ruachs in prison were already in prison, okay, before the flood came. during the patience of Elohim, while he patiently waited for Noah to build the ark. While the ark was being prepared, see that? While the ark was being prepared, they were already in prison, these Ruachs, before the flood came, in which a few, that is, 8 persons, were delivered through water. Okay, so this is kind of jiving with Jude when he's talking about these people, these Ruachs that are shackled in darkness. See, so with this, what is this? This is another reference to Enoch. It's exactly what this is. All right, and let's read on, because there's some powerful stuff still here. Which figure now also saves us immersion, not a putting away of the filth of the flesh, not by washing yourself clean, but the pledge of a good conscience toward Elohim, a change of mind, decision to be obedient and love Yahuah and love others. You've changed your mind. You've changed your behavior. Okay. So here we died in water. We died in this water, in this immersion. The flesh dead. We circumcised the flesh. It's an outward sign. We removed the flesh in the mind of the flesh, in the true pattern of Yahuah. Is what we're doing. We're acting in the true pattern of Yahusha. Okay. Through the resurrection of Yahuah, Yahusha Mashiach, whom having gone into heaven is at the right hand of Elohim. That means he has all the power and the authority, and he's the one that sits on the throne. So Yahusha is Elohim. He is Yahuah, incarnated while he was on the earth. Now he's not anymore, unless he wants to be. He can definitely materialize himself or translate himself over into, not translate, but transfer himself over to flesh, because he did it when he appeared to Downton Thomas and the rest of the emissaries. And when he appeared to him at the shores of Galilee, when he was cooking breakfast and fish, had breakfast and ate and drank with them. It was flesh. Why would a Ruach have to eat and drink human food? He wouldn't. And when Downton Thomas touched his wounds and the holes in his hands and feet and on his side, he said, "Look here, touch right here. I'm flesh just like you." So he made himself back into flesh again, man. He's had the ability to do that. Is anything too hard for you? No. Who haven't gone into the heaven at the right hand of Yahuah, he's resumed his role as the Father, the Ruach, the Comforter. Comes back. He doesn't leave us orphans. Comes back and indwells us and teaches us, protects us, heals us, provides for us, and hunts for his lost sheep through us, and does miracles and wonders and signs through the hands of us who he indwells. Messengers and authorities and powers haven't been subjected to him. Why? Because he's that's why. So the resurrection from the water is Ruach-like. This is spiritual insight. So we are now Ruach-like. We're spiritual beings. We're the children of Yahuah, children of light. No longer are we sons of the flesh or sons of Adam, no more. Okay. If you really think about it, is we looked at the genealogy of Enoch, went back to Adam, right? And then to Elohim, and then back through all the way back up to Enoch and everything. Does that mean that we have Adam in us? Yeah. Your DNA through your genealogy carries your ancestor along. Your DNA, just one strand can stretch from the earth to the moon. All of your DNA, I can't remember, but it's mind-blowing amount of times. Okay. Why? Because it's recorded information. What is it recording? Your ancestors. So all your ancestors' DNA gets passed on through your DNA, on and on and on through every generation. So just by us, just say, take me for instance, Yahuah can take my DNA and go all the way back to him through Adam, like he did with Enoch, right? And know all that my ancestors, and through my DNA, resurrect them all. There's no DNA lost. It's carried on through each generation. And if you ask me, that's proof that there's everlasting life. Because why would Yahuah bother recording our ancestors' DNA going all the way back to Adam in our DNA? Why? Because it's proof that there's everlasting life. That's why. Think about it. All right, let's move on. All right, just a little bit behind here. I didn't want Enoch to take this long, but it's definitely taking. I might have to split this up into Enoch this time and Elijah next time. We'll see how it goes. All right, second Kepha. Now, Kepha was definitely, he was into Enoch. No doubt about it. Okay, 2 Peter 1, 19. And we have the prophetic word made more certain, which you do well to heed as a light that shines in a dark place. Wow. Until the yom, or the day, dawns, and the morning star rises in your hearts. Who's the morning star? Yahusha. Yahusha is. He's the lily of the valleys. He's the bright morning star. He's the morning star. He rises in your hearts. Knowing this first, that no prophecy of Scripture came to be of one's own interpretation. Okay, now here is a quote from Enoch. For prophecy never came by desire of man, but men of Elohim spoke, being moved by the Ruach HaKodesh. Wow. So there you go. Peter quoting Enoch right there on verse 21. Yeah. The lily of the valley, the bright and morning star. I'm so glad I know who Yahusha is. He's Counselor, Wonderful, Mighty, Elohim is He. Everlasting Father, He is the Prince of Peace. Okay, so Kepha 2, 2 Kepha, chapter 2, verse 4. For if Elohim did not spare the messengers who sinned, but sent them to Tartarus and delivered them into chains of darkness to be kept for judgment, and did not spare the world of old, but preserved Noah, a proclaimer of uprightness, and 7 others. So there's a quote from Enoch right there. Chains of darkness to be kept for judgment. Delivered them into the chains of darkness. So this goes back to Jude, same thing that we read in Jude there, right? It comes from Enoch. It's partial quote, but it's definitely referencing the book of Enoch, a quote from Enoch. Like I said, Enoch was definitely a real person. Did Moses, when he wrote the Torah, did he do it on his own account? Did he know what to write by himself? No, he did not. He was told what to write. He just took dictation. All right, Hebrews 11. We're going to wrap Enoch up here. I'm going to talk about him just a little bit more, and then I got to get into Elijah here. Hebrews 11, verse 5 and 6. By belief, Enoch was translated so as not to see death. So here we're told a second time now, besides in Genesis there, that Enoch did not see death. So I think at this point we have to believe that. A lot of people try to spin this, twist this, and tell you that Enoch somehow was taken away to a mountain to die like Moses was or something, or crazy stuff. A lot of Christian sects will even try to tell you that Enoch was taken up into heaven. Was he? No. We'll get into that at the end. By belief, Enoch was translated so as not to see death, and was not found because Yahuah had translated him. What's translated mean here? It means take from one place and put to another. Probably very, very quickly. Like immediately. And so say I'm sitting here now, and bam, all of a sudden I look around and I'm sitting in my mother's house up in Ohio. That's translated. It's Yahuah's way that he travels. That's his public transportation, is translation. All right. So he was translated from somewhere to somewhere else, is what this means, quickly. And was not found because Yahuah had translated him. For before his translation, he obtained witness that he pleased Yahuah. Wow. So he obtained the witness that he pleased Yahuah. Can you imagine pleasing Yahuah that much that he just, boom, translates you right over to where he wants you to be, and you don't have to die? You just can stay who you are. Do you think he gave Enoch an immortal body when he did that? Well, I would say he did. If he didn't have to die, I'd say he transferred him within a blink of an eyelid into an immortal body and put him somewhere. And it wasn't heaven, as most Christians will try to teach you. It couldn't be. It ain't no way. And we're going to get into that at the end. But without belief, it is impossible to please him. Wow, how much belief did Enoch have? For he who comes to Yahuah has to believe that he is, so he exists, and that he is the rewarder of those who earnestly seek him. So there you go. So Enoch was quite a man, was he not? He really was. So that's pretty much all we really get out of the Scriptures of Truth, the 66 canonized list here from about Enoch, is that I can say. There may be a few more in there that I didn't mentioned, but those are the main ones I know about in the quotes. I think there are more references to quotes, but I'm not sure what they are. So anyway, there's most of us know what the Sefer is, right? The Eth Sefer from Dr. Stephen Pidgeon. He's got a pretty good little forward here in his Sefer about Enoch and the Apocrypha that I find to be very interesting. It goes, if you all have it, you ought to look into it and read it. But I'll read one little thing here on this, and then I got to get moving to get to Elijah here before we run out of time. But it says, while some historians have rejected Enoch as heresy, 2 Peter 2:4-5 indicates that one of the believers in Enoch was Peter himself. For Peter states, Elohim spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to Sheol and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment. And spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the 8th person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the wicked. So 7 others would be his wife, his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives. And he would be the 8th. The delivery into chains of darkness and the reservation unto judgment is discussed only in the book of Enoch. It's the only place you can find that, and that was before the Nazarene writings. Okay, so the decision to include both of these books, speaking of Enoch and Jubilees, both of these books were made easier when the Hebrew versions of Enoch and Jubilees were found in the cave number 4 at Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls. In fact, the credibility of these 2 books, given the find, is much greater than the writings of the Brit Chadasha, or what they call the New Testament, where not a single original exists. Okay, so the rumor is they do have a writing from what they call the New Testament, okay? And it is Matthew, the book of Matthew in Paleo-Hebrew. And actually, the rumor is half of it's Paleo-Hebrew and the other half's Arabic, I do believe. So they've never produced it. So we can say, some say, yeah, they have it, and some say, no, they don't, because nobody's ever seen it. So where is this supposed writing found in the Dead Sea Scrolls of the New Testament, Matthew? Well, everybody says it's in the Vatican, basement of the Vatican, where everything else is. And they still won't release it. If they have it, they're not releasing it. Okay. Possibly that's what made the Pope faint. And back in the 80s, when they showed the Pope a script that they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, rumor has it that it was the book of Matthew written in Paleo-Hebrew, and they could see the true name Yahushua written there. It made the Pope faint. So it goes on to say here, just I'll read another paragraph here, then I got to get into Elijah. The book of Enoch was clearly known to early Christian writers, as the following quote from Enoch indicates, from Enoch 2:1 indicates, in the 7th generations from Adam, Enoch also prophesies these things, saying, behold, Yahuah comes with 10,000s of his Kadeshim to execute judgment upon all and to convince all that are wicked among them of all the wicked deeds which they have wickedly committed, and of all their hard speeches which wicked sinners have spoken against him. And that, of course, that's Jude 14 and 15. We read that. Okay, so yeah, I can't read any more of that. If you have that cipher, read the rest of it yourself. It's pretty interesting. It even talks about the Apocrypha too, how they went in and out of the canonized list. That's what's real interesting there. Okay, so it starts out with a different number, goes to another number, another number. They keep changing the canonized list 4 or 5 times, adding the Apocrypha, taking it out, sectioning it off, all kinds of crazy stuff, man, before they finally come up with the 66 canonized list. Okay, so it wasn't the very first thing they did and then nothing else. They had to redid it until they finally decided what they wanted to put out there. And matter of fact, if you really research the history of it, you'll find that when there wasn't a council of Christianity, if you will, of sorts, that eliminated Enoch or the Apocrypha. Okay, it was print setters that did it. Okay, so they removed these as many books as possible so that they could print it with less books and make just as much money with less printing and make a bigger profit. So it was them that decided to remove these books from the canonized list, not the so-called Circuit Fathers. Okay, so that's interesting too. Research that. I know everybody likes to say, "Oh, voodoo, 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 voodoo," when you say Enoch. Like, hey, no, I wouldn't be talking like that about Enoch. You know about as much as anybody else. The information's out there. People are teaching it, and the books are there to read. Everybody knows what's going on. Let's put forth effort and research into it. And we all know the same stuff, So it's either you want to tiptoe with it, or if you curse it and act like it's a curse and it's evil, you may be putting yourself in danger. That's all I'm saying. I'd be careful with it, man, because it was part of the canonized list. And no church father took it out. It was the print setters that took it out. All right. So anyway, that's Enoch. And I don't think there's anything else about Enoch to mention to you that I know about. So let's go on to Elijah now. Yeah, we got time to hit him. So Elijah, another prominent figure in scriptures that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, but, Elijah or Eliyahu, if you will, is one more well-known possibly among religious sects than Enoch is. You can see there wasn't a whole lot of information on Enoch there. And then some of the quotes and stuff about Enoch, from Enoch, the book of Enoch, most people don't recognize them as being extracted from the book of Enoch. They just don't know that. They're ignorant to that. So Elijah has probably, I would say, more well known. Not by much, but most of the Christians, I'd say, probably. They focus on him a little bit more. But they don't really, pay too much attention to any of these guys, because most of the story of them comes from the Tanakh, right? And they don't like to go there. And so when they are mentioned in the Nazarene writings, which they both are, they skip over them fairly quickly. And so they really don't get a good understanding of who these men were. But yet they did not have to die. I mean, wow, Matt, why aren't we studying about them more? I think we should. They didn't have to die. There's something to them guys, man. Them two guys got something going on that we need to find out. We need to know. Because they didn't have to die. I mean, we should be really focused on those two guys, man. Other than Yahushua, Yahushua number 1, Enoch and Elijah might be 2 and 3. And Eleazar running a close 4th. As far as us studying and trying to learn about them and their character, their behavior, who they were. Why should we bother? Because they have to die. Everybody's all about all these other, Paul this, Paul that, Peter this, John that, Luke. But they don't talk about Enoch and Elijah, and they didn't have to die. I think we should be talking about them quite a bit more, man, personally. Just stands to reason to me. Who do we want to try to study? The ones that died or the ones that didn't die? Well, who didn't die? Well, Yahushua died, but he came back to life. So we got to be studying on him. Elijah, Enoch, possibly you're going to run in a distant 4th. And if he is alive, Eleazar and Enoch and Elijah, which Scripture definitely says they are, where are they? Did they go to heaven in their fleshly bodies? No. Did they go to heaven in their spiritual body? In immortal bodies? No. Where'd they go? We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Okay. Elijah now. Great prophet, one of my favorites, probably my favorite. I really find a lot of amazing things about Elijah. He's just an amazing character here. And so King 17, 18 and 19 is packed with Elijah. So let's get started on that. And Eliyahu or Elijah, the Tishbite of the inhabitants of Gilead, said to Achab, as Yahuah Elohim of Israel lives, before whom I stand, there shall be no dew or rain these years except at my word. And the word of Yahuah came to him, saying, go away from here and turn eastward and hide by the Wadi Kereth, which flows into the garden. And it shall be that you drink from the stream, and I shall command the ravens to feed you there. And he went and did according to the word of Yahuah, for he went and dwelt by the Wadi Kereth, which flows into the garden, and the ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning, and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the stream. And it came to be after a while that the stream dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of Yahuah came to him, saying, rise up and go to Zarephath, which belongs to Zidon, and dwell there. See, I have commanded a widow there to sustain you. And he rose up and went to Zarephath, and came to the gate of the city, and saw a widow there gathering sticks. And he called and said to her, please bring me a little water in a vessel to drink. And as she was going to get in, he called and said to her, please bring me a piece of bread in your hand. And she said, as Yahuah your Elohim lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin and a little oil in a jar. And see, I am gathering a couple of sticks and shall go in and prepare for it for myself and my son, and we shall eat it and die. Isn't that interesting? Eat it and die. Why? Because that's all she had. She didn't have no more, nothing else to eat and drink, so she's going to die. And Elijah said to her, do not fear, go and do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first. Interesting, huh? And bring it to me. And afterward, make some for yourself and your son. For thus said Yahuah Elohim of Israel, the bin of flour shall not be used up, nor the jar of oil run dry, until the day Yahuah sends rain on the Eretz, or the earth. So she went in and did according to the word of Elijah, or Eliyahu, and she and he and her household ate for many days. So it just didn't run out. Kind of like the bread, the fish and the loaves, huh? The 5,000 people just didn't run out. The bin of flour was not used up, nor did the jar of oil run dry, according to the word of Yahuah, which he spoke by Elijah. Okay, so that was Yahuah speaking through Elijah. And after these events, it came to be that the son of the Asha who owned the house became sick, and his sickness was very severe until there was no breath left in him. And she said to Elijah, what have I to do with you, O man of Elohim? Have you come to me to bring my crookedness to be remembered and to kill my son? So he took him from her arms and took him to the upper room where he was dwelling, and laid him on his own bed, and cried out to Yahuah and said, O Yahuah my Elohim, have you also brought evil on the widow with whom I am sojourning to kill her son? And he stretched himself out on the child 3 times. So here he's laying on the child, man. As we study Elijah, he does some weird things, man, with his body. But there's a lot of meaning behind what he's doing, if we can really just stop and think about those things. It's really quite amazing. But he stretched himself out on the child 3 times and cried out to Yahuah and said, O Yahuah my Elohim, I pray, let the life of this child come back to him. And Yahuah heard the voice of Elijah, and the life of the child came back to him, and he lived. So there you go. You woke him back up, right? He died or fell asleep and got woke back up. And Elijah took the child and brought him down to the from the upper room into the house, and gave him to the mother. And Elijah said, see, your son lives. And the Asha said to Elijah, now by this I know that you are a man of Elohim, and that the word of Yahuah in your mouth is truth. Wow. Okay. So here's our introduction to Elijah. I don't know what number prophet he was. I know Samuel was the first prophet. I'm not sure where Elijah comes in there, but here we can see Elohim doing great works through his servant Elijah. Okay. And we're going to 18. And after many days, it came up to be that the word of Yahuah came to Elijah in the 3rd year, saying, go present yourself to Achab, and I give rain on the Eretz. Thereupon Eliyahu went to present himself to Achab, and the scarcity of food in Samaria was severe. So there was a famine going on, a drought and a famine, severe. And Achab had called obeyed Yahuah, who was over his house. Now, Obed Yahu feared Yahuah exceedingly, and it came to be while Isabel cut down the prophets of Yahuah. She was killing them. So Isabel and the king was killing the prophets of Yahuah, and she actually almost slaughtered all of them, as we'll find out. But she was cutting down the prophets of Yahuah that Obed Yahu had taken 100 prophets and hidden them, 50 to a cave, and had fed them with bread and water. And Achab had said to Obed Yahu, go into the land to all the springs of water and to all the wadis. It could be that we find grass to keep the horses and mules alive and not have any livestock cut off. And they divided the land between them to pass over it. Achab went one way by himself, and Obed Yahu went another way by himself. And as Obed Yahu was on his way, then see, Elijah met him, and he recognized him and fell on his face and said, is that you, my master Eliyahu, or Elijah? And he answered him, it is I. Go say to your master, Elijah is here. And he said, what have I sinned that you are giving your servant into the hand of Achab to kill me? And Yahuah your Elohim, as Yahuah your Elohim lives, there is no nation or reign where my master has not sent to look for you. And when they said, he is not here, he made the reign or nation swear that they could not find you. And now you say, go say to your master, Eliyahu is here. And it shall be as soon as I am gone from you, that the Ruach of Yahuah takes you away to a place I do not know. And I shall come to report to Achab, and when he does not find you, he shall kill me. But I, your servant, have feared Yahuah from my youth. Was it not reported to my master what I did when Isabel slew the prophets of Yahuah? How I hid 100 men of the prophets of Yahuah, 50 to a cave, and fed them with bread and water. And now you say, go say to your master, Elijah is here, then he shall slay me. And Elijah said, as Yahuah Sabaoth lives, before whom I stand, I shall indeed show myself to him today. Obed Yahuah then went to meet Achab and informed him, and Achab went to meet Elijah. And it came to be when Achab saw Elijah that Achab said to him, is that you, O disturber of Israel? And he answered, I have not disturbed Israel, but you and your father's house, in that you have forsaken the commands of Yahuah, and you have followed the Baalim. Okay, so Baalim means Lords. And now send and gather all Israel to me on Mount Carmel, the 450 prophets of Baal, or Baal, and the 400 prophets of Asherah, who eat at Isabel's table. Prophets of Asherah, so these would be sorcerers, man. Sorcerers and witches and magicians, things like that. Achab then sent for all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets on Mount Carmel. Okay. So here we go, man. This is a showdown now. This is pretty well-known showdown, but very interesting. Achab then sent for all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets on Mount Carmel. And Elijah came to all the people and said, how long would you keep hopping between two opinions? Can you believe it? If Yahuah is Elohim, follow him. And if Baal or Bel, follow him. But the people answered him not a word. And Eliyahu said to the people, I alone am left, a prophet of Yahuah, but the prophets of Baal are 450 men. So it's 1 versus 450. Now let them give us 2 bulls, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, and set no fire. And I prepare the other bull, and shall lay it on the wood, but set no fire. And you shall call on the name of your mighty one, and I call on the name of Yahuah. And the Elohim who answers by fire, he is Elohim. So all the people answered and said, the word is good. And Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, choose 1 bull for yourselves and prepare it first. So he's saying, go first. For you are many, and call on the name of your mighty one, but set no fire. So they took the bull which was given to them and prepared it and called on the name of Baal from morning until noon. Even until noon. So from morning to noon. So probably from 9 o'clock in the morning till noon. Saying, O Baal, answer us. But there was no voice and no one answered. And they leaped about the altar which they had made. And it came to be at noon that Elijah taunted them and said, cry out loud, cry louder, for he is a mighty one. He is meditating, or he is busy, or he is on a journey, or it could be that he is asleep and has to be awakened. So he's taunting them pretty hard there. And they cried out and cut themselves. So now they're screaming, jumping around like little banshees, cutting themselves, making themselves bleed all over the place, screaming, trying to wake him up, according to their ruling, with knives and spears, until the blood gushed on them, out on them. And it came to be, when midday was past, that they prophesied until the time of bringing the evening offering. But there was no voice, and no one answered, and no one paying attention. So now it must be about 9th hour, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So they're going from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon now, doing all this crazy stuff, trying to get that fire to light up. And no one was paying attention. So people got bored. They're probably nap. This is sickening, man. I can't stand watching this anymore. No one's even paying attention to him anymore. Then Elijah said to all the people, come closer to me. And all the people came closer to him, and he repaired the altar of Yahuah that was broken down. And Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of Yahuah had come, saying, Israel is your name. And with the stones he built an altar in the name of Yahuah, and he made a trench around the altar large enough to hold 2 seahs of seed. And he arranged the wood and cut the bull in pieces and laid it on the wood, and said, fill 4 jars with water and pour it on the burnt offering and on the wood. And they're dousing it with water now. Why? Isn't it hard to light a fire that's had water on it? So in other words, he's saying, I'm going to make sure they don't think I lit this fire somehow. So douse it with water, man. Right? Leaving no doubt that it wasn't Elijah that started the fire. Then he said, do it a second time. So he said, fill them jugs back up, pour more water on there. I don't leaving no doubt I'm the one to start this fire. You're going to know it was Yahuah. This is soaking wet now. And he said, do it a third time. And they did it a third time. Now he poured more water on there. Okay, so now we can visualize what's going on here in this event, that he's poured lots of water on the wood, the animal, everything, everywhere, on everything, man. It just soaked. So we all know that you ain't going to start a fire that's been soaked in water, okay? It's pretty obvious here. So why is Yahuah, Elijah doing that? To leave no doubt in anybody's mind that he lit that fire. He don't want them to think that at all. He wants to give all the esteem to Yahuah, right? No doubt in anyone's mind. And the water flowed around the altar, and he filled the trench with the water too. So he even filled the trench around it with water. And it came to be at the time of bringing the evening offering that Eliyahu, or Elijah the prophet, came near and said, so here it's confirmed that Elijah was a prophet. We never saw where Enoch, it said Enoch was. I don't remember. He was a prophet, but Elijah definitely was a prophet. Came near and said, okay, so now starting right here, these next like 39, 40 words here is a prayer. So a lot of people don't stop long enough to get that. Okay, this isn't a proclamation. This is a prayer. So now he's doused everything with water. He's filled the trench with water. Now Elijah's he's going to pray. And here's his prayer. Yahuah Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak and Yesharal. Jacob's name was changed to Yesharal. Yaqub's name was. Let it be known today, you are Elohim and Yesharal, and I, your servant, have done all these things by your word. Answer me, O Yahuah, answer me, and let this people know that you are Yahuah Elohim, and you shall turn their hearts back to you again. End of the prayer. Okay. So let's pause there for a second at Elijah's prayer. This is a very powerful format as a prayer, short prayer. Very powerful stuff, though. And if we dissect it and we get a good look at it, we can actually use this same format in our own personal prayers, just like we can, like Daniel's prayer and other people's prayers too, even Jeremiah's. And we can have the same powerful effects in our life as they did. If Yahuah did it for them, he'll do it for us. So the prayer is short but very powerful. And it says, so the first thing here that we notice is he's saying that you are my Elohim. So he's acknowledging Yahuah is his Elohim. Okay, and then the second thing he does is he proclaims, or he admits or confesses that I am your servant. So that's the first two things of this prayer. And then the next thing he does is saying that have all done all these things by your word. He is confessing it's not me doing it, but by your word, Yahuah, by your strength, by your power, not by me. Okay, it's your words coming out of me. It's not me doing it. It's you inside me speaking out of me. It's your words that has the power. So he's given all the esteem and the power to Yahuah. He's recognizing where the power is. It's not in him. it's of Yahuah. Okay. And then he goes on to say, answer me, answer me, answer me, Yahuah. Okay. So then he's asking him in a sort of outspoken way, if you will, to answer him. A lot of confidence there, right? A lot of expectation. He's saying, answer me, oh Yahuah, answer me. So he's asking him to answer his prayer. And then I think the biggest part of this whole thing is what triggers Yahuah to do it. And that's what we find at the end. Let people know you. Answer me, oh Yahuah, answer me, so that people will know you. Not so they will come to me and give me any esteem and pat me on the back, but so that they will know you, Yahuah. Do it for yourself. Do it for your name. Do it for your greatness. Do it so the people will know you, Yahuah. And that's what triggers Yahuah to act, no doubt. So this little 5-step short prayer here packs a wallop. And what happens? Well, the fire fell from heaven. That's what happened. Then the fire of Yahuah fell and consumed the burnt offering and the wood and the stones and the dust, and it licked up the water that was in the trench. That's what happened when he did that little prayer, that powerful little prayer. So if we can orchestrate or form our prayers in this manner, we should expect great things to happen as well. I mean, come on. This fire consumed everything, and the fire around the trench sit there and licked up the water out of the trench. You kidding me? The fire fell from the Shemayim, man. And it didn't take long. It was right after he said what he said. Right after he finished that prayer and said, so that the people can know you. Bam! Yahuah acted on that powerfully. Why? Because you're not asking for anything for yourself. He didn't ask anything for himself. He asked for the benefit of Yahuah. And so Yahuah acted on that. That humbleness, that selflessness that Elijah performed, man. He didn't ask for anything for himself. He didn't say anything about himself. It was he made it all about Yahuah, so that the people could know Yahuah. And all the people saw and fell on their faces and said, Yahuah, he is the Elohim. Yahuah, he is the Elohim. And Eliyahu said to them, seize the prophets of Baal. Do not let one of them escape. So they seized them, and Eliyahu brought them down to the Wadi Question and slaughtered them there. He slaughtered them, man. That's a nasty word. That's worse than kill. Slaughter. That's nasty. He slaughtered them. And Elijah said to Achab, go up, eat and drink because of the sound of the noise of rain. Okay, so did Elijah here now didn't die. Yahuah took him. Okay, but we have to stop and pause here and say, well, look, man, if Elijah killed all these people, he slaughtered them, how was he such a good person that he didn't have to die? How does that equate? It makes no sense, right? That he would not have to die, that he was such a good person after he slaughtered all these people, right? And so what we have to understand here is that their blood was not on the hands of Elijah. Okay, he told them about Yahuah. They rejected the truth, and so Yahuah slaughtered them through the hands of Elijah, because he was indwelling him. Elijah had the Ruach HaKodesh, in case you haven't realized that. And so it was Yahuah who killed these prophets of Baal. Not Elijah. Elijah was just the tool. Yahuah was one operating the mechanisms through the hands of Elijah. And so the blood wasn't on the hands of Elijah. Elijah warned them. He even proved to them that it was Yahuah. What do you think would have happened? Look at it this way. What would have happened if all of the prophets of Baal dropped on their knees, put their face in the dust, and started screaming that Yahuah is Elohim, and started repenting and begging for mercy? Do you think he would have slaughtered them? That's an interesting question, isn't it? I kind of lean toward I don't think it's so. But since they didn't repent, obviously, they were slaughtered. Crazy, man. But that's what it looks like. And so now Elijah here's mentioning rain, sound of rain, okay? And which could be latter rain, it could be a type for the reality, but I think that'd be a little bit of a stretch on this one. But yeah, I say Yahuah killed them, and Elijah remained innocent of their blood. Okay. So now, after all this, Elijah, he took them down, right, and he slaughtered them. He seized them and brought them down to the Wadi Quishon and slaughtered them. So now Elijah returns to the top of Mount Carmel a second time. Right? So Elijah goes back on the top of Mount Carmel a second time. So he went up to the top of Carmel, Elijah did, and now listen to this. Remember what I said? He does weird stuff. I laid on that boy 3 times, on top of that boy. Well, listen to this. And he bowed down on the ground. So he bowed down on the ground, must have went to his knees, we'll say, and put his face between his knees. Okay. So he bowed, he squatted is what he did. And then he put his face between his knees. So, can you imagine that? There he is, squatted down. He put his face between his knees now, on top of Mount Carmel. Strange position, isn't it? And said to his servant, "Go up, please. Look closely toward the sea." So he went up and looked closely and said, "Not a speck." So he sent his servant up to look over the mountain ridge there at the sea and see if he could see any rain coming. Well, the guy comes back and says, "Not a speck, not a drop of rain, man." And 7 times he said, "Go again." So here's Elijah, bowed down, squatted down, got his face between his knees, praying for rain. I guess he was praying for rain, or he didn't want to look for some reason. He kept sending this guy to look 7 times. So he continued, I would say he continued to pray with his head between his knees and squatted down. And they sent that servant of his up there to look for rain 7 times. So what is that telling us, man? Persistence, right? So obviously he didn't want to move. He didn't want to pick his face up and look around. He just wanted to keep looking down between his knees and praying for rain. until that man told him that there was rain coming. 7 times now, back and forth, right? Who knows how long it took him to do it? It doesn't really say. And it came to be the 7th time that he said, see, a little cloud as small as a man's fist is coming out of the sea. So here he comes back 7 times and says, a little tiny cloud about the size of my fist. Look how small that is. And he's looking down there from Mount Carmel over the sea. He sees this little tiny cloud that's the size of a man's fist. How could he even see it? Made a little tiny cloud there, Elijah. A little tiny one. Don't send me back. Wow, huh? And he said, go up, say to Achab, hitch up and go down before the rain stops you. So this hitch up means what? So he's telling the servant, go up, say to Achab, hitch up. Hitch up what? Oh, his chariot, of course. He had been hitching up his chariot and getting ready to take off before it starts thunderstorming. But to this point, there's just a little tiny cloud the size of a man's fist coming up out of the sea. Well, to Elijah, that little seed right there, that little tiny cloud was enough. As soon as he saw that, he said, it's coming. Yahuah's going to answer my prayer, man. You better tell Achab, hook up his chariot and let's get out of here, man. It's coming. That's how sure he was that Yahuah was going to answer his prayer once he saw that little teeny tiny cloud. So that's persistence, and that's some extreme belief right there. That he knew it was coming, man. And so, and in the meantime, it came to be that the Shemayim became black with clouds and wind, and there was heavy rain. So there you go. He got hitched up and he started taking off for shelter, and it came. And it was a huge thunderstorm, heavy rain, wind, clouds, black. While Achab rode and went to Yezreel, and so he was going along in his chariot, heading for that city for cover, and to get out of the storm, it came. He got caught in the rain. He got caught in the thunderstorm. And the hand of Yahuah was on Elijah. So the hand of Yahuah was on Elijah, Eliyahu, and he girded up his loins, and then he got ready, right? He ready to go like a racehorse, right? And ran ahead of Achab to the entrance of Yezreel. That's amazing, isn't it? So here Elijah took off running. The rain, pouring down rain, thunderstorm, black cloud, wind, and Elijah outran the horse. He got to the town because the hand of Yahuah was on him. That's what it says. It says he ran ahead of Achab to the entrance of Yezreel. So Elijah beat the horse there. That's amazing, man. That's extremely amazing. So it must have been Yahuah, the hand of Yahuah on him. Yahuah must have been making him run faster than the horse, or he picked him up and moved him up there. Maybe Elijah's feet was going like this, wasn't even touching the ground, because Yahuah had him by his hand, had a hold of Elijah, and was taking him up to the gate of Yezreel, right? And Elijah's little feet was going like this, like a madman, but he wasn't even touching the ground. And that's why he beat the horse. So the hand of Yahuah was on him. I don't know. He beat the horse somehow. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? Okay, so so there's a lot of stuff opening up here about this Elijah, and but perhaps the greatest thing that we could learn from Elijah is found in chapter 19. It's just phenomenal, really. What a powerful message chapter 19 is. So let's get through it real quick. This reminds me of maybe we all should be praying for the latter rain. You know, maybe we should all squat down, put our faces between our knees, and pray for the latter rain. What do you think? That's right. All right. 1 Kings 19:1. And when Achab reported to Isabel all that Elijah had done, also how he slew all the prophets with the sword, Isabel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, so let the mighty ones do to me, and more also, if I do not make your life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. And he feared and rose up and ran for his life and went to Beersheba, which belongs to Yahuah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree and prayed that he might die, and said, it is enough. Now, Yahuah, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers. All right, so what's going on here, man? This is an interesting thing here, but what's going on with Elijah? He's depressed. He's got anxiety, depression. He wants to die. He wants Yahuah to kill him. He's in a deep depression. Why? I'm no better than my fathers. So he must be. Well, you know, Isabel is basically made an oath. Look, I'm going to kill you before tomorrow. If not, I hope all this bad things happen to me if I don't do my oath, complete my oath. You know, kind of like those people that took an oath not to eat or drink until they killed Paul, right? It's got the same kind of a deal. So here, apparently, Elijah, as he was running depressed, because now he knows Isabel and her army is out to kill him. All the other prophets, as far as he's concerned, has been killed. I'm the lonely one left. This ain't worth it. Just kill me, Yahuah. I'm done. I'm done. You know, I killed all those men. I slaughtered all those people. I'm no better than my fathers. I'm a disobedient murderer. Kill me, Yahuah. I don't want to live anymore. So see, Elisha is in a depressed state. Is he not? Yeah. Yes, can Yahuah, may I die? Take my life. I mean, come on now. How many of you would say that? I mean, I know I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, and he laid and slept under the broom tree, and see, a messenger touched him and said to him, rise and eat. So a messenger came, an angel. Get up, Elijah. Said, rise up and eat. So he must have had something for him to eat. And he looked and saw by his head a caked bed, a cake baked on coals, and a jar of water. So he ate and he drank, and turned and lay down. And the messenger of Yahuah came back the second time and touched him and said, rise, eat, for the journey is too much for you. And he rose up and ate and drank, and went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights, as far as Kareb, the mountain of Elohim. This Kareb is also, some people say that's the same thing as Mount Sinai. Kareb, I believe, I think so. They may be wrong on that, but I think Kareb is Mount Sinai. And there he went into a cave. So there he went into a cave, spent the night there. That's almost crazy if you think about it. So he eats cake and drinks water. Next time he eats, and then he eats some more and drinks some more water. And he said, now that's got to last you for 40 days and 40 nights. Wow. Right? So now he's on by the mountain of Elohim. Okay. So, and there he went into a cave and spent the night there. And see, the word of Yahuah came to him and said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" So now Yahuah says, saying, "What are you doing in here in this cave, man? What'd you come down here for?" All right. So, what are you doing here, Elijah? And he said, "I have been very jealous of Yahuah, Elohim of hosts. For the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant." So he's talking about killing all those people. He said he's got in his mind he did it probably. "They have thrown down your altars, and they have slain your prophets with the sword. And I am left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it." Okay, so Elijah's thinking he's the only prophet left in Israel. All right. All the altars have been thrown down and destroyed, broken down. All the prophets are killed, and he's the only one left. Why is he thinking that? Well, because Isabel and the king that she was married to had killed most of the prophets at this point. Okay, we heard the one guy hid 50 in a cave, right? But we don't know what happened to him beyond that. But here, I'm thinking that they were found by Isabel's army and they slaughtered in revenge, or in most of them, even before that incident happened. But anyway, whatever the case is, Elijah thinks he's the only one left. And, he thinks all the altars have been tumbled, all the prophets are killed. He's the only one left. He's depressed. He wants to die. He's hiding in a cave, depressed, anxiety, depression, suppression, the whole 9 yards, right? Starving too. Don't forget, he only ate those cakes and that water 2 times, and then 40 days and 40 nights, and he came on this cave. So he's half starved to death, about ready to die anyway, isn't he? Then he got 1 foot in the grave, to me, if you ask me. And he said, "Go out and stand in the mountain before Yahuah, and see, Yahuah passed by in a great and strong wind, tearing the mountains and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yahuah." All right, so he tells Elijah, "Go out of the mountain, go out of the cave, onto the mountain, watch what happens." What happened? A great wind came, busted down the mountaintops, busted rocks in pieces, just everything just going nuts. But the strong wind, be like a tornado or something, right? Just ripped through the mountains. And it says Yahuah was not in the wind. And so it didn't destroy you, Elisha. He wasn't destroyed. Why? Because Yahuah wasn't in it. It wasn't Yahuah's will. Even though it looked like he would be destroyed to him, I'm sure, he was not even touched, wasn't scratched, because Yahuah was not in the wind. It wasn't his will for Elijah to be hurt, even in the face of all that great catastrophe. And then it goes on, it says, "And after the wind, an earthquake. And Yahuah was not in the earthquake." So after the wind, a big earthquake came. Shaking, rocks were rolling around everywhere, big giant. You heard the whole world just shaking, and Elijah didn't get a scratch. Why? Because Yahuah wasn't in the earthquake. It wasn't Yahuah's will for Elijah to get hurt. And after the earthquake, a fire. So the whole side of the mountain must have been lit on fire. Smoke, imagine. And after the earthquake of fire, Yahuah was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. So even though this big giant fire probably burned up the hillside, Elijah was not scratched. Didn't even have the smell of smoke on him. Why? Because Yahuah was not in it. It wasn't Yahuah's will that Elijah got burnt up. So now a small voice, and it came to be when Elijah heard it that he wrapped his face in his robe and went out and stood at the cave opening. And see, a voice came to him and said, so he's standing out here by the front of the cave with his head all wrapped up in a robe. What are you doing here, Elijah? Asked him again. What are you doing here, Elijah? Remember what he said the first time? Oh, because they're going to kill me. They're after me, right? I'm the only one left. So now he says, and he said, I have been very jealous for Yahuah Elohim of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken your covenant, and they have thrown down your altars, and they have slain your prophets with the sword, and I am left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it. So here his answer is the same. After everything Yahuah just did to show him that if I'm not in it, it ain't going to happen, dude. You ain't going to get killed. It's not my will, right? He still gives back the same answer, okay? So was Elijah like us? Yeah, he was quite a bit like us, wasn't he? So he wasn't like a supernatural human being or Superman or Batman or something, was he? He was just like a normal man. He thought as a normal man. Average man would, right? So he gives him the same answer back as he did before those events. And Yahuah said to him, go, return on your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and you shall go in and anoint Hazael as sovereign over Aram, and anoint Yahuah, son of Nimshi, as sovereign over Yisrael, and anoint Elijah, son of Shaphat of Abel Mecholah, as prophet in your place. So now he's wanting him to anoint two kings and the prophet that's going to take over his place. So Elijah must be thinking, "Ooh, I'm going to die. I got to name my, I got to find my replacement, right?" So as a prophet in your place. And it shall be that whoever escapes the sword of Hazael, Yahuah does kill, and whoever escapes from the sword of Yahuah, Elijah does kill. And I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal or Bel, and every mouth that has not kissed him. So so he gives him his marching orders, tells him who his replacement's going to be. I'm replacing you, Elijah. This is Elisha's going to be your replacement. Okay, these are the kings, and that's your marching orders. Get moving, right? Oh, by the way, I reserved 7,000 in Israel. All knees whose knees have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth has not kissed him. So now he's telling him, you ain't the only one, dude. There's 7,000 of them, 7,000 prophets left. Now get going. If I'm not in it, you can't get hurt, right? And he went from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him. Wow, 12 yoke of oxen? That's a lot. And he was with the 12th. And Elijah passed by him and threw his robe on him. And he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, please let me kiss my father and my mother, then I will follow you. And he said to him, go, turn back, for what have I done to you? And he turned back from him and took a yoke of oxen and slaughtered them and cooked their flesh, using the implements of the oxen, and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he rose up and followed Elijah, becoming his servant or his apprentice, to say. So there you go. Very amazing. gives us a real good perspective of Elijah and who he was. Maybe he's all that we thought he would be. Maybe we were surprised of his weakness or his humanity. As we read through there, I mean, his depression, his second thoughts, maybe some of his cowardness, if you will. He gave up, sort of gave up, didn't he? It's over. All the altars are broke down. All the prophets are killed. I'm the only one left. I give up. So we get a good insight of who Elijah was, and he wasn't really a whole lot different than us. You really think about it. Okay, so let's all right, go to let's go to 2 Kings 2. Now let's go back. Let's go to 2 Kings 1. Guess we're going to have to go right through this, or we're not going to get it. Okay. All right. So 2 Kings now 1. And Moab revolted against Israel after the death of Achab, and Ahaziah fell through the lattice of his upper room in Samaria and was injured, and sent messengers and said to them, "Go inquire of Baal-zebub, the mighty one of Ekron, if I shall recover from this injury." Oh boy. So here we go. This guy, he's still this guy's worshiping Baal-zebub, the Lord of the Flies, I think is what that means. But a messenger of Yahuah spoke to Elijah the Tishbite, "Rise up, go up to meet the messengers of the sovereign of Shamiron, and say to them, is it because there is no Elohim in Israel that you are going to inquire of Baal-zebub, the mighty one of Ekron? So therefore, thus said Yahuah, you are not going to get out of the bed to which you have gone up, for you shall certainly die." And Elijah went. So Yahuah said, "Yeah, you're going to die now, worshiping a false mighty one." And the messengers returned to him and said to him, "Why have you come back?" And they said to him, "A man came up to us and said to us, Go return to the sovereign who sent you and say to him, Thus said Yahuah, is because there is no Elohim, is it because there is no Elohim in Israel that you are sending to inquire of Baal-zebub, the mighty one of Ekron? Therefore you are not going to get out of the bed to which you have gone up, and you shall certainly die." And he said to them, "What was the man like who came up to meet you and spoke to you these words?" And they answered him, "He was a hairy man." Okay, so he was a hairy man and wore a leather girdle around his waist. And he said, "It is Elijah the Tishbite." So as soon as he told him he was a hairy man, he wore a leather girdle around his waist, he knew it was Elijah. And he then sent to him a captain of 50 with the 50 men. And he went up to him, and see, he was sitting on the top of the hill, and he spoke to him, "Man of Elohim, the sovereign has said, come down." And Elijah answered and said to the captain of 50, "If I am a man of Elohim, let fire come down from the Shemayim and consume you and your 50 men." And the fire came down from the Shemayim and consumed him and his 50 men. Wow. He then sent another captain of 50 with his 50 men to him, and he answered and said to him, "Man of Elohim, this is what the sovereign said, come down at once." And Elijah answered and said to them, I am a man of Elohim. Let fire come down from the Shemaim and consume you and your 50 men. And a fire of Elohim came down from the Shemaim and consumed him and his 50 men. So here's Elijah calling fire down on these guys, man, burning them up with fire. And a fire of Elohim came down from the Shemaim and consumed him and the 50 men. And again, he sent a third captain of 50, and with his 50 men. And the third captain of 50 went up and came up and fell on his knees before Elijah, and pleaded with him and said to him, Man of Elohim, please let my life and the life of these 50 servants of yours be precious in your eyes. See, fire has come down from the Shemaim and burned up the first two captains of 50s with their 50s, but let my life be precious in your eyes. And the messenger of Yahuah said to Elijah, Go down with him, do not be afraid of him. So he rose up and went down with him and to the sovereign and spoke to him. Thus said Yahuah, because you have sent messengers to inquire of Baal-zebub, the mighty one of Ekron, it is because there is no Elohim in Israel to inquire of his word. Therefore you are not going to get out of the bed to which you have gone up, for you shall certainly die. And he died, according to the word of Yahuah, which Elijah had spoken. And Yahuram reigned in his place in the second year of Yahuram, son of Yahushaphat, sovereign of Yehudah, for he had no son. And the rest of the acts of Achaziah, which he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the sovereigns of Israel? All right. So here we go. We get a little bit more insight about Elijah. He was hairy, and he wore leather girded around his waist. What's that remind you of? Kind of reminds me of Yahuah the Immerser when I read that. Any of you get that same idea? Okay, let's look at chapter 2 real quick. And it came to be when Yahuah was to take up Elijah to the Shemaim by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal or Galilee. And Elijah said to Elisha, Please remain here, for Yahuah has sent me on to Bethel. And Elisha said, As Yahuah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you. And they went down to Bethel. And the sons of the prophets who were at Bethel came out to Elisha and said to him, Do you know that Yahuah is taking away your master from your head? And he said, I also know. Be silent. And Elijah said to him, Elisha, please remain here, for Yahuah has sent me on to Jericho. And he said, As Yahuah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you. And they came into Jericho, and the sons of the prophets who were at Jericho came to Elisha and said to him, Do you know that Yahuah has taken away your master from over you today? And he said, I also know. Be silent. And Elisha said to him, Please remain here, for Yahuah has sent me onto the garden. And he said, As Yahuah lives, and as your being lives, I do not leave you. And the two of them went on. And 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood facing them at a distance, while the two of them stood by the garden. And Elijah took his robe and rolled it up and struck the water. And it was divided this way and that, so that the two of them passed over on dry ground. And it came to be, when they had passed over, that Elijah said to Elisha, Ask what I am to do for you. before I am taken away from you. And Elisha said, please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me. Woo, going to a double portion of the Ruach. And he said, you have made it hard to ask. Yet if you see me when I am taken from you, it is yours. But if not, it is not. And it came to be, as they continued on and spoke, that see a chariot of fire with horses of fire, which separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into the Shamayim. Okay, so there you go. Elijah was removed from the Arets by a whirlwind. Came to be, as they continued on and spoke, that see a chariot of fire with horses of fire, which separated the two of them. Must have come in between them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into the Shamayim. Doesn't really say he got into the chariot, does it? Just says he was taken up in a whirlwind. It's kind of odd, but most people teach that he was taken away in a fiery chariot. And Elisha saw it, and he cried out, my father, the chariot of Yisrael and its horsemen. And he saw him no more. Then he took hold of his own garments and tore them into two pieces. And he took up the robe of Elijah that had fallen from him and went back and stood by the bank of the garden. And he took the robe of Elijah that had fallen from him and struck the water and said, where is Yahuah Elohim of Elijah? And he struck the water, and it was divided this way and that, and Elijah passed over. Elisha passed over. And when the sons of the prophets who were from Jericho saw him, they said, the spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha. So what's the spirit of Elijah? We hear that a lot. What would that be? The spirit of Elijah rests on him. I mean, we hear it a lot. So I think this is the spirit of Elijah. To me, is the Ruach HaKodesh. I agree with you, Diane. I think it's the Ruach HaKodesh too, the spirit of Elijah. And they came to meet him and bowed to the ground before him. And they said to him, look, there are 50 strong men with your servants. Please let them go and search for your master. At least the Ruach of Yahuah has taken him up and cast him upon some mountain or into some valley. And he said, send no one. So here they want to go out and search for Elijah. What happened to him? And they pressed upon him. The whirlwind took him and dumped him off somewhere. Let's go find him, see if he's still alive. But they pressed upon him till he was ashamed, and he said, send. So they sent 50 men, and they searched for 3 days, but did not find him. So why was he ashamed? Because they were concerned, he wasn't letting them do what they wanted to do. He was trying to control them. So he knew what happened, but he just let them go. It's kind of like I was saying earlier, even though you just let them have it, man, because it's good for them. In their heart, they're trying to help, and find Elijah, but he knows that they're not going to. But so he's saying, "Oh, don't go." And finally, he said, "You know what? Go ahead and go. Make yourself feel better and go look for him." So anyway, and they returned to him, for he remained in Jericho, and he said to them, "Did I not say to you, do not go?" And the men of the city said to Elisha, "Look, the site of this city is good, as my master sees, but the mayim are spoiled and the soil barren." So what does that mean? So the water around Jericho had been poisoned by somebody. And the soil barren because the water wasn't any good. So the water was poisoned around Jericho. Nobody could drink the water. They couldn't even use it to grow stuff to eat. The soil was even barren because the water was poisoned water. And he said, "Bring me a new bowl." And he put salt in it, and they brought it to him. And he went out to the source of the water, and which would have been the well, the spring, underground spring, perhaps it was feeding the water up, the source of the water, and threw salt in there, and said, "Thus said Yahuah, I have healed this water. No longer shall death or barrenness come from it." And the Mayim was healed. The water was healed to this day, according to the word of Elisha, which he spoke. So Yahuah cleaned up the water. And he went up from there to Bethel, and as he was going up the way, some youths came from the city and mocked him and said to him, "Go up, bald head. Go up, bald head." So here these kids are teasing Elisha because he's bald, right? And he turned around and looked at them and pronounced a curse on them in the name of Yahuah. What? So he puts a curse on these kids because they're calling him Baldy, right? In the name of Yahuah. And 2 female bears came out of the forest and tore to pieces 42 of the youths. So 2 female bears came and killed the 42 kids because he put a curse on them in the name of Yahuah because they were calling him bald head. Is that crazy or is that crazy? And from there, he went to Mount Carmel, back to Mount Carmel now. And from there, he returned to Samaritan or Samaritan. So why do you suppose all these 2 bears, why did he curse these kids, killed 42 kids because they called him Baldy? Well, I think this was reinforcing one of the commands in the Torah, where if a child is unruly and won't listen to their parents or the leaders, the elders, then what's supposed to happen? Well, they're supposed to be brought up to the gate, and I think supposed to be hung, aren't they? So maybe this was, some kind of reinforcement that Yahuah wanted to make a point of that, that the parents weren't teaching their children properly to respect the elders, and this was what would happen if they neglected to teach their children manners and politeness and everything toward the elders, to listen to the elders. That's about the only thing I can think of, because it's surely a strange passage, isn't it? Because they were calling him Baldy. So there's another thing we found out about Elijah. He was hairy. He was girded around with leather. When he was bald, he was a baldy, like somebody else I know. Okay, so that gives us even a better vision of Elijah. Elisha. This is Elisha now. I mixed that up. So this is beginning to give us a vision of this Elijah who took over for Elijah. That's what I meant to say. But he has Elijah's robe on, and he is bald-headed. So we know that. All right, so this kind of finish up in Kings here. He kind of tapers off in 2 Kings 9. I'm going to say kind of tapers off with the death of Isabel, and so let's go to 9:29. And in the 11th year of Joram, son of Akab, Achazariah began to reign over Yehudah. And Yahuah came to Yisrael, and Isabel heard of it. And she put paint on her eyes and adorned her head and looked through a window. So here she's throwing makeup on, trying to make herself look hot and sexy, right? And she's glancing out a window, maybe trying to seduce them with her beauty or whatever, right? So that's kind of a strange thing here too, you know, the paint of the face, you know, to make her look sexy or enticing to a man, right? It was glancing out the window at him with her eyes, batting around probably. And as Yahuah came to the gate, she said, "Is it peace, Zimri, slayer of your master?" And he lifted up his face to the window and said, "Who is with me?" Who? And 2 or 3 eunuchs looked down to him and said, "Throw her down." And they threw her down. Talking about Isabel. Now they hold Isabel. And some of her blood splattered on the wall and on the horses. And he trampled her underfoot. Wow. And he went in and he ate and drank and said, "Go now, see to this cursed one and bury her, for she was a sovereign's daughter." So they went to bury her, but all they found of her was her skull and the feet and the palms of the hands. The palms of the hand? The backside of the hand wasn't there? Just the palm? They must have ate that meat off the backside of her hand. Just the palm would remain. So the skull, her feet, and the palms of her hand is the only thing they found of Isabel. She's eaten by dogs. And they came back and informed him, and he said, "This is the word of Yahuah, which he spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite, saying, in the portion of Yisrael, dogs are going to eat the flesh of Isabel." Wow. Okay. "And the corpse of Isabel shall be as dung on the surface of the field," because the dogs ate her and she turned into dung and they pooped her out, right? "In the portion of Yisrael, so that they do not say, 'This is Isabel.'" So she was turned into dog poop and they couldn't even recognize her. Just found her skull, palms of her hand, and her feet, and that's it. The rest of it was unrecognizable. Couldn't even begin to tell who it was. And so this is the end of Isabel, you know, which was kind of the arch enemy of Elijah, if you will. She was the one that was teaching everybody to worship Bel or Baal, Zebub worship, and all that. She was the culprit. You know, she was the witch that led everybody astray, the children of Israel astray, and taught them how to perform Baal worship, you know. So good riddance to Isabel. And let's see. Yeah, we don't need to go there. Let's look on through. And by the way, if you've never read Songs of Songs, read the Song of Songs. Read it over and over and concentrate on it. It's very powerful. It's a love letter to you from Yahuah, is what it really is, to his people. You want to read a love letter from Yahuah, made out personally to you, his elect? Read Song of Songs. Okay, back to Elijah. Now this is interesting here because this is 2 Chronicles 21, 11. And what's interesting about this is a letter that seems to have been written or taken written after Elijah was taken. So where'd this letter from Elijah come from? So that's kind of proof that he's still alive. It wasn't a whirlwind or a tornado that took him and flung him off somewhere and he died, right? So he's still alive because this letter came from Elijah after he was taken by the whirlwind. And we find it in 2 Chronicles 21, verse 11. He says, he had also made high places in the mountains of Yehudah and caused the inhabitants of Jerusalem to commit whoring and led Yehudah astray. And a letter came to him from Elijah the prophet, saying, thus said Yahuah Elohim of your father Daud, because you have not walked in the ways of Jehoshaphat your father, or in the ways of Asa, sovereign of Yehudah. See, so it's a letter from Elijah after he was taken now. So that proves that he's still alive somewhere on the planet, or this guy wouldn't have received the letter. But have walked in the way of the sovereigns of Israel, and have made Yehudah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to commit whoring like the whorings of the house of Achab, and also have slain your brothers, those of your father's household who were better than yourself. See, Yahuah is going to strike with a great blow among your people, your children, your wives, and all your possessions, and you, with many sicknesses, with diseases of your intestines, until your intestines come out because of the sickness, yam by yam. Amazing, man. This letter was written after Elijah was taken up in the whirlwind. So he had to be living somewhere else, able to send a letter somehow, right? So that's pretty interesting. So a lot of people, the people that teach us that Elijah was killed, he didn't really live for, when they say he was taken, that he didn't have to die. They said, oh no, he died, he was just taken somewhere else. They couldn't find him, but he eventually died when he got older or whatever. Well, this here doesn't seem to be saying that. It seems that he wrote a letter here to this guy after the whirlwind. So he was definitely alive somewhere. Okay. So Malachi 4, verse 5. See, I am seeking you. Oh, I'm sorry. See, I am sending you, Elijah, the prophet. There's another confirmation he was a prophet, okay? Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and awesome Yom of Yahuah, the day of Yahuah. And he shall turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earths with utter destruction. All right, so here is, Yahuah saying he's going to send Elijah, the prophet, before the coming of the great and awesome Yom of Yahuah, for the day of Yahuah. Okay, so that's why a lot of people look for Elijah to come back during Passover. It's when they expect him to come back for whatever reason. But interesting, isn't it? That Elijah is supposed to come back before the great and awesome day of Yahuah. From somewhere, he's still alive. If he's going to send Elijah, the prophet, before the end of the age, before the Yom of Yahuah comes, the day of Yahuah. What's the day of Yahuah? A day of darkness and gloom. Okay, a day he's going to burn the earth, burn everything up. Very few men will be left. We read about it in Isaiah 24. So he's got to come back before that time comes, the day of Yahuah. That's what it's saying here in Malachi. So it's kind of a prophecy or a prediction from Yahuah that Elijah will be sent to us before the day of Yahuah. And then we go to let's see. Go to 1 John. We find a peculiar referral to Elijah there. John 1. In John 1, verse 21. Well, actually, could bounce back over there to go to 16. John 1:16. And out of his completeness we all did receive in favor upon favor. For the Torah was given through Moses, the favor and the truth came through Yahushua Mashiach. Powerful, man. No one has ever seen Elohim, the only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he did declare. Now this was the witness of Yahuchanan, when the Yehudim sent from Jerusalem priests and Levites to ask him, who are you? And he confessed and did not deny, but confessed, I am not the Mashiach. And they asked him, what then are you, Elijah? So he said, I am not. Are you the prophet? Are you the prophet? And he said, no. This is extremely interesting because we know that Yahuchanan the Immerser was a prophet because Yahusha said he was. Right? No, he really did not. He said that he was there was no greater prophet than John the Immerser, but he also said something else. We're going to get into that. But here we need to see here that John himself, Yahuchanan himself here, is denying that he is Elijah. Okay, but so we can see the similarities between John, the Yahuchanan the Immerser, and Elijah. Right? We can see a little bit of similarity there as we read through the characteristics and behavior of Elijah. So let's just put that on the back burner there for a minute, and well, let's go beyond that one right now. Take a look at James 5. James 5. And let's take a look there at 16. James 5:16. Confess your trespass to one another and pray for one another, so that you are healed. The earnest prayer of a righteous one accomplishes much. Elijah was a man with feelings, or like us, feelings like us, or nature like us. You know, Elijah was a man with nature or feelings like us, and he prayed earnestly that it would not rain. And it did not rain on the land for 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the land brought forth its fruit. Brothers, if anyone among you goes astray from the truth and someone turns him back, let him know that he who turns an offender from the strain of his way shall save a life from death and cover a great number of offenses. Wow. Okay, so here we get confirmation here that Elijah was just a man with the same type of feelings we got, the same type of nature as us. And we saw that as we were reading about him, right? And so this is pointed out here in James. It's interesting that was pointed out by James. So, in other words, there's no one person that's greater than any other person. But why was Elijah taken, didn't have to die? same as Enoch. It's amazing, isn't it? It's really amazing. Okay, so here we go into, I guess we go here to Luke 1. Look no farther than Luke 1. Luke 1, 17 now. Let's go to 15. Luke 1, 15. For he shall be great before Yahuah, and shall drink no wine and strong drink at all. And he shall be filled with the Ruach HaKodesh, even from his mother's womb. Okay, wow, who is that talking about, right? Filled with the Ruach HaKodesh? Even from his mother's womb? What? So who are we talking about here? Well, let's read on. And he shall turn many of the children of Israel. We want to remain children. We don't want to grow up, people. We got to accept the reign of Yahuah as a child. We want to remain children of Israel to Yahuah, their Elohim. And he shall go before him in the Ruach and power of Elijah to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children. Where do we just read that? Malachi 4. And the disobedience to the insight of the righteous, and the disobedience to the insight of the righteous, to make ready a people prepared for Yahuah. Huh? What are we talking about here? The power of Elijah? What was the power of Elijah? The Ruach HaKodesh. This is speaking of John the Immerser, who had received the Ruach HaKodesh even from his mother's womb. Now, here's a great prophet, right? You go before him in the Ruach and the power of Elijah. Well, the power of Elijah was the Ruach HaKodesh. Elijah had no power on his own. He was just a normal man with the same feelings and natures we have. What made him special was the Ruach HaKodesh in him, right? Because we saw him go through depression, anxiety, and worry, and slaughtering people, and hiding, and being a coward, and all kinds of stuff, right? Starvation, wanting to die, hoping to die, even asking Yahuah to kill him, to take his life. See? So the power of Elijah is nothing less or nothing more than the Ruach HaKodesh. Powerful, man. That's a big wow for me. I don't know about y'all. And let's see here now. I mean, this is starting to get a little interesting. It's big. There's some kind of a correlation between Yahuah the Immerser and Elijah. There's something. There's some kind of connection, some kind of correlation, some kind of duplication, if you will, something between these two, because it gets deeper. So now let's get a look at Matthew 17, 9. 17, 9. And as they were coming down from the mountain, this is when the transfiguration, I believe, happened here. And as they were coming down from the mountain, Yahushua ordered them, saying, do not mention the vision to anyone until the son of Adam is raised from the dead. So that's what it is. They're coming down from the transfiguration. And his Talmudim, or students, asked him, saying, why then do the scribes say that Elijah has to come first? Now, we read that in Malachi, didn't we? So why do the scribes say that Elijah has to come first? First before what? before his death? Is that not the context of the conversation? Do not mention the vision to anyone until the son of Adam is raised from the dead. And his Talmud asked him, saying, why then do the scribes say that Elijah has to come first? First before what? Before his resurrection or before the day of Yahuah, as it was given to us in Malachi? Let's read on. And Yahusha answering said to them, Elijah is indeed coming first, and shall restore all matters. But I say to you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but did to him whatever they wished. Huh? In this way, the son of Adam is also about to suffer by them. Then the Talmudim, see, now he's whoever they did to whatever they wanted to do to Elijah, which he's seen has already come. And now he's saying in this same way, the son of Adam, which is Yahusha, is also about to suffer by them. So they happened before him. And he's going to have to suffer by the hands of the same people, which happened before him. That's what this is saying. Then the Talmudim, or students, understood that he had spoken to them about Yahuah the Mercer. Wow. Is this saying that Yahuah the Mercer was somehow Elijah? That's what it sounds like. It ain't saying anything about the spirit of Elijah, which we know is the Ruach HaKodesh. This is odd. This almost sounds to me, man, that somehow Elijah, the Yahuah and the Mercer, was Elijah. Then the Talmudim understood that he had spoken to them about Yahuah the Mercer. So was Yahuah the Mercer, who was received the Ruach HaKodesh even in his mother's womb, was he like Elijah? Is that what this means? He was similar to him in personality, character, very closely related, almost like a clone of Elijah? Or was it Elijah? If it was Elijah, then somehow Yahuah took Elijah, put him in the womb of that woman, and he was born again. Kind of odd, isn't it? It's a very odd situation there, and for us to grasp and for us to really sink our teeth into and say for sure what Yahushua is talking about here. Okay, and a lot of people, false teachers, will lead us to this verse to try, one of the ones they bring you to try to promote incarnation. And they say this is proof of incarnation. Elijah was incarnated and came back and was born again and became John the Immerser. It was really Elijah. You know, that's what they point to. And I'm not teaching that. I'm just telling you that that's out there. You know, a lot of times I say stuff or whatever, or read stuff and talk about things or elaborate on things, and somehow people get it twisted that I was teaching that. You know, it's like I wasn't teaching that. I'm just saying that some people believe that. You know, so be careful. You know, of what you're hearing me say. You know, but man, I mean, you got to admit, it's mind blowing. Okay. It's a strange verse, okay, no doubt. It really, to me, I mean, it sounds like Yahuah I mean, Yahushua is saying that that it was Elijah that was spoken about in Malachi. I mean, that's what it sounds like. You know, it's hard for me to sink my teeth into that and say, yeah, for sure, he said it was Elijah, so it's Elijah. You know, because it doesn't sound right. You know, it's too much gray area there. You know, to really sink your teeth into it. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard. Let's scoot over here to Mark. Mark 9. We get another angle shot at that we just read about there in Matthew 17. Let's look at it from Mark's view, see if there's any difference. Probably not. There ain't a whole lot of difference between Mark and Matthew here. Let's see, 9. Let's start about 3. And his garments became shining exceedingly white like snow, such as no launder on the rest is able to whiten. That's the transfiguration. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Yahushua. So here we get a mix of Elijah and Moses now, which is kind of odd to me because Elijah did not die. He was taken by a whirlwind, but Moses died. All right. Archangel Michael and Satan fought over or argued over his body, and Yahuah came down, took Moses' body, and buried him himself out where nobody knows, because he didn't want Moses to become a martyr or worshipped by the Hebrew, because he was regarded as as a high prophet, that he would easily be worshipped by the Hebrew, monuments built to him and everything, and he didn't want any of that to happen. That's why he didn't go into the promised land. That's why he buried his body and hid it where nobody knows where it's at but him, the Yahuah himself. And so kind of weird here that there's a mixture, that there was Elijah and Moses. So since Moses died, since Elijah didn't die, you know, we could almost say that, well, he just, wherever Elijah is, he just brought him there to that air to talk with. But how about Moses? So Moses would have either had to be woke up and brought there and then put back to sleep. He couldn't have been resurrected because Yahushua was the first of the resurrection. So he couldn't have been resurrected, which means woke up and given immortality. He didn't have to go back to sleep. You're just going to live forever now. Right. That's why there was people that were resurrected or woke up before Yahushua, but they weren't resurrected, so they had to die again. Those ones that were raised from the dead had to die again. Because other than that, if not, then they would have been a resurrection instead of an awakening. See, and then they would live forever, and then that wouldn't be true that Yahushua is the first of the resurrection. See, so we have to be careful about what we say and how we think about that. So Moses, if he was woke, then he was put back to sleep after this transfiguration. But for me, the way that what I think this is Moses was translated by Yahuah from his time period to this time period on the Mount of Olives, just prior to Yahushua's death, and Elijah as well. Okay, so Elijah could have been translated there, or maybe he was even there. Who knows? Because he was taken. He didn't have to die. Was he given immortality, or was he still living in the flesh? It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. So there's a lot of different angles that we can look at this at, but I lean toward they were both translated from their time slots to that day and talked with him, and then he sent them back to their time period where they lived in. You know, that's what I think happened here, you know, personally. That's just me. Okay, and then they were talking with him, and Kepha responded and said to Yahushua, Rabbi, is it good for us to be here? It is good for us to be here, and let us make 3 booths, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah. because he did not know what to say, for they were exceedingly terrified. So here, Peter was being a bonehead. Okay, he was terrified, didn't know what to say. He's like, "What? Moses and Elijah? You want us to build a booth for him to sleep in?" You know, he was losing his marbles. You know, and so he was exceedingly terrified. So he was saying stupid things. All right, so a lot of people try to say that means this and it means that, but he was exceedingly terrified and didn't really know what he was saying. That's what it just told us. All right, and there came a cloud overshadowing them, and a voice came out of the cloud saying, "This is my son, the beloved, hear him." And suddenly looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them, but only Yahushua. And as they were coming down from the mountain, he ordered them not to relate to anyone what they saw till the son of Adam had risen from the dead. And they kept this matter to themselves, debating what the rising from the dead meant. And they asked him, saying, "Why do the scribes say that Elijah has to come first?" And he said to them, "Elijah indeed, having come first, restores all things. And how has it been written concerning the son of Adam that he used to suffer much and be despised? But I say to you that even Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they wished, as it has been written of him. And coming to the Talmudim, he saw a large throng around them and scribes disputing with them." So, yeah, we're not getting much more insight out of it, but it just, same thing. It seems to be saying that, Yahushua seems to be saying that, you know, Elijah has to come first, and that Elijah indeed had come first and restores all things. And how has it been written concerning the son of Adam that he is to suffer much and be despised? The same way. So we're not getting a whole lot more out of that. It's still kind of just in limbo there, isn't it? So, let's see now. We're getting close to the end here. Let's see, 25. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hebrews 11, 17 through 19. Well, wait a minute. Hebrews 11. Let's see. What is that? Oh, 9. Okay. 11:9. Hebrews. By belief, Enoch was translated so as not to see death, and was not found because Yahuah had translated him. For before his translation, he obtained witness that he pleased Yahuah. I go over here to Hebrews 17. It says, by belief, so where is that? By belief. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing there. That's not what I was looking for. All right. So now back to John. Go to John 21. John 21. Now, strangely here, John enters the parallel of Enoch and Elijah. All right, so Enoch and Elijah did not die, and questionably, neither did Eleazar. Eleazar being Yahuah or the Talmudim that Yahusha loved. Okay. And so there may be a phrase here that puts him in that same category. And that's found in John 21. It'd be 18. It says, "Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were younger and girded yourself and walked where you wished, but when you are old, you shall stretch out your hands, and another shall gird you and bring you where you do not wish." And now this he said, signifying by what death he would esteem Elohim. And having said this, he said to him, "Follow me." So Yahushua is letting Peter know how he's going to die. He's going to be staked. And Kepha, turning around, saw the pupil whom Yahushua loved following, who also had leaned on his breast at the supper. So we know this is Yahuah, Eleazar, Lazarus. He went by several names and said, "Master, who is the one who's delivering you up?" Seeing him, Kepha said to Yahushua, "But Master, what about this one?" And Yahushua said to him, "If I wish him to remain till I come, what is that to you? You follow me." Therefore, this word went out among the brothers that this Talmud or student would not die. However, Yahushua did not say to him that he would not die, but if I desire him to remain until I come, what is it to you? So this is the pupil who bears witness about these things and wrote these things, and we know that his witness is true. Now there is much else that Yahushua did. If every one of them were written down, I think that the world itself would not contain the written books. Amen. Okay, so Yahushua did a lot more than what's written. So when people say everything has to fit within the cover of the Bible or the Scriptures of Truth, or it can't be real, I'm not seeing it that way, because it just says here that Yahushua did so many other things that the world itself would not be able to contain it if it was written in the books. So that's a tremendous amount of things Yahushua said and did that's not written in here. That means he's outside of the Scriptures, man. He did things outside of what we know. This is minimal. This is just to help us believe, the witnesses. That's all. He did much, 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 much more than we know about. So he's not contained within the covers of the Scriptures. Yahuah can do whatever he wants to whomever he wants, whenever he wants. See that? So if you wanted Elijah to be born again and come out as John the Immerser and have the Ruach HaKodesh even in the womb of his mother, could he do it? You better believe he can do it. Yahuah can do anything he wants to do. Who are we to say, no, he can't do that? Or no, that's impossible. I mean, who are we? We're dust. We're here 1 second, gone the next. Our life's like a vapor, man. Good thing Yahuah remembers we're dust. Because we sure say a whole lot of things that we don't know we're talking about, don't we? Everybody thinks they know everything. Oh, it's not written in Scriptures. That's impossible. It has to be in Scriptures or it's not real. Says who? You or Yahuah? What I read is Yahuah can do anything. Nothing's impossible for Yahuah. Who are you to limit Yahuah, restrict Yahuah, or define Yahuah? And you're just a dust man like me. Silly talk. It's silly talk. Oh, Yahuah's confined to Scriptures. If it ain't in here, it can't be real. All right, here it says, now there is much else that Yahushua did. If every one of them were written down, I think that the world itself would not contain the written books. Sounds like to me he did a whole lot more stuff than what's written down between them covers. So you better do a fact check and try to rearrange your mouth a little bit. Yahuah is awesome. Yahuah is great. Yahuah is beyond power. He's beyond our imagination. He's beyond our mind. He is mighty above anything we can think about. We cannot define Yahuah, restrict Yahuah, or contain Yahuah in a box. Stop doing that. It creeps me out, man. Man, who do you think you are, man? Ugh. Okay, so let's look over here now. With that in mind, take a look at John 3:13. All right. So this brings us down toward the end here now. So where are they? Where is Moses? I'm sorry. I got Moses on my mind. Where is Enoch? Where is Elijah? Where is John? Or Eleazar or Lazarus? The Talmud them that Yahushua loved. Where are they? Where are they? Well, many people teach that they're in heaven. There's a lot of Christianity sects say, especially Elijah, they want to say that Elijah went in a whirlwind or a chariot, was in the chariot of fire, and it took him to heaven. But we just read that a whirlwind took him away. The chariot of fire and the chariot of horses just separated Elijah and Elisha. You know, and then Elijah must have been on the other side of the chariot and was taken away by a whirlwind. That's what it sounds like it says to me. Reread it yourself. I don't see where it says he was in the chariot at all. I might be wrong on that, but that's the way I read it. He was taken away in a whirlwind. Nevertheless, where is he? Where's Elijah and where's Enoch? Well, they're not in heaven. That much I can say for sure. Why can I say that? Because of what's written in John 3. John 3, 13, it says, and no one has gone up into the heaven except he who came down from the heaven, the son of Adam. You know, interesting too, the verse right above that. If you do not believe when I spoke to you about earthly matters, how are you going to believe when I speak to you about heavenly matters? This is an interesting thing that Yahushua says here, because not only does that is suggesting that you have to have spiritual insight to understand the Torah. The Torah is Ruach-like. It's also kind of suggesting here, if you really think about it, that if you have spiritual binders on, if you can't understand the earthly matters, then you, in a way, you're going to understand the heavenly matters because you have spiritual binders on, right? But not only that, he seems to be suggesting that no one has the authority to teach on heaven because they have not been there. So they're overreaching or stepping beyond their authority as an emissary or teacher, if you will, when they speak to us about heaven. Why? Because they have not been there. This is kind of what Yahushua is implying, if you ask me. He's saying, I'm the only one that's been to heaven. What you talking about? Tell me what it looks like you've been there. Well, there's a lot of people out there who tell you what it looks like, but they don't have any idea. they're lying. They say, well, he showed it to me in a dream. Well, maybe so. I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. You know, that's up between you and Yahuah. He knows if you're lying or not. I'll stay neutral. But I know one thing, none of us have the authority to teach on heaven or speak about heaven because none of us have been there, according to John 3:13 here. Right? Yeah, I would say so. People start telling us that, you know, you go up on a cloud and you go through this tunnel, you get up on some clouds, and there's a pearly gates up there, and St. Peter's up there with the keys to the gate to heaven and pearly gates and all, and there's a line there, and when you get up there, and Peter asks you some questions, mainly, why should I let you in heaven? And if you give him the wrong answer, he poots you off the cloud, and you go down to Hades down there where the devil intercepts you and starts poking you in the butt with his pitchfork. I mean, come on, man. It's something to think about, isn't it? So one thing I can say for sure is, and I'm pretty sure about this, that Elijah and Enoch and even John or Lazarus, if you will, is not in heaven. So where could they be? Well, there's only two places they can be. Okay, they're either walking on the earth and they're still in fleshly bodies. Okay, somehow, in that case, somehow they are supernaturally protected by Yahuah and they can't be hurt. Right? They can't catch diseases. They can't fall off a cliff and die. They can't drown. They can't get in an automobile accident and die. They're being so protected by Yahuah that they're still in the flesh and they've lived this long. Never able, no accident or disease or any mishap can come along and kill them because they're being supernaturally protected in their flesh. Maybe they're surrounded by myriads of messengers, and they put a hedge of protection around them, and wherever they go, the messengers follow and protect them from harm. At least they should dash their foot against the stump. You know, who knows? But that's one possibility, is they're all still on this planet, and they are all walking in the dust in their fleshly bodies, being protected by Yahuah in some fashion. And they cannot be killed because it's not his will. Yahuah's not in it, just like he wasn't in it when Elijah was all freaked out and worried about it. You can't get hurt, Elijah. I'm not in it, man. So, or they're in paradise, the Garden of Eden. Yahuah's placed them in the Garden of Eden, in paradise. They may have their mortal bodies in there, and maybe they don't. Who are the witnesses? Well, I don't know, but the two witnesses have to die. The two witnesses die at the end of the age, at the end of tribulation. 3.5 years, they spread the Besorah in Jerusalem. Sounds like they're standing on the steps of the Temple Mount, is what it says they're doing. It means the temple must be rebuilt for them to be able to stand up on the stairs of the Temple Mount. Right? Sounds like it. I don't know. And they have to die. So in that case, they would be in the flesh. So maybe they're in the Garden of Eden, in paradise, waiting to be translated from there over to Jerusalem when the times come for them to be the two witnesses, which most people think are some. I'd say the majority probably say that it's Moses and Elijah, but I don't think so, because Moses is dead, and so he would have to be woke up and put over there, which who is capable of doing. I mean, it's possible. But Enoch, he's assigned to pray for mankind. That's why he didn't. That's why he took him. He assigned him to pray for humanity till the end of the days. Do intercessory prayers for humans. So was she given immortality, or is she still in the flesh in the Garden of Eden? Or did he receive a mortal body? Moses is dead. We know that. Elijah, he could be still in the flesh, and he's going to be one of the witnesses. If he's still in the flesh and he goes over there and becomes a witness, he's got to die. So that would be understandable. And then Yahuah is very interesting. Why? Because he told Peter, he said, what is it to you if he remains till I come back? Which is really close to where he comes back. But then it says he did not say that Yahuah would not die. He just said, what's it to you if he remains till I come back? So that kind of makes me think, well, he's got to have to die. So he said, Yahushua didn't say that he had to die, that he wouldn't die, just that he would remain till he come back. So that kind of tells me, well, Yahuah got a date to die. So it sounds like to me, so maybe Yahuah is going to die is one of the two witnesses, right, prior to the second coming of Yahushua, man. Right? So therefore, to me, that makes Yahuah and Elijah still in the flesh, but either walking on this earth or being protected by Yahuah, or placed in paradise in the Garden of Eden, waiting for the fullness of time to where he's going to translate them over into Jerusalem so they could be the two witnesses. And they would remain in the flesh because they have to die. The witnesses died. Two witnesses died for sure. Moses is already dead. So, that don't make any sense, for Moses for him to have to be woke up and do that and then have to die again or fall asleep again doesn't sound right. So that makes me believe that the two witnesses are Elijah and Yahuah, the student whom Yahushua loved, Eleazar or Lazarus. So we just read about in John 21. That's what I think. And Elijah, because of Malachi 4. That's what makes me think that's him. So how about Enoch? Well, I think Enoch received immortality. I think he's in the Garden of Eden right now. He's in paradise with his immortal body. Could that be? Yeah, because he wasn't resurrected. So that doesn't interrupt what Yahushua is the firstborn of the resurrection, because Enoch didn't die. He didn't have to be resurrected. He just took him and gave him his mortal body and threw him over in paradise. Is the Garden of Eden gone? No. Adam and Eve were thrown out of it, and it's being protected by a messenger with a flaming sword going both ways. Nobody can get in there unless Yahuah puts them in there. Yahuah tells that guy, hey, let them in. Well, he's going to let them in. Right? So the Garden of Eden's there. Paradise is there. It wasn't destroyed as far as I know, which brings up an interesting point that if you really think about it, Adam and Kua, Adam and Kua were immortal before the fall. And as Hebrew tradition has it, I think they fell on the third day. If I ain't mistaken, third or fifth day, I think it's third. And they ate that forbidden fruit. Well, as soon as she ate it, she took a bite of that fruit, she turned into flesh immediately. And then she handed it to Adam. Now they were two separate beings there. She was flesh and he was still immortal. And so she was deceived. So Eve was deceived because she grabbed the apple and plucked it. So that means that she believed the serpent. She was deceived. She believed the lie. Up to this point now, when they were confronted by the serpent, Adam and Kua never heard a lie before. They never heard a lie. That was the very first lie ever told from that coming out of the serpent's mouth. So they had not been lied to. They had never even heard a lie or knew of a lie. They were innocent. So she believed the serpent, and so she was deceived, and she plucked the apple and bit it. Adam was not deceived by the lie of the serpent, but he was deceived by sin. What sin? The same sin that happened to Satan. When he heard he could be like Elohim, he wanted to be. So he sinned. He was deceived by sin. So he took the apple and bit it. So Yahuah was deceived by the lie of the serpent, the very first lie ever told. And her husband, Adam, was deceived by sin, and he did eat. He ate of the forbidden fruit. They were thrown out, but paradise is still there, man. It ain't going nowhere. It's still there. So maybe that's where they're at. I just got a sneaking hunch that those three guys are in the Garden of Eden in paradise, kicking back and waiting for the fullness of time to come till they're called to Yahuah's work and become the two witnesses, Lazarus and Elijah. That's what I think. All righty. That pretty much is a wrap there. I hope everybody enjoyed that, and I hope everybody got as much out of it as I did. Very powerful stuff tonight. And so the main reason for this study for me was that we need to use these guys as fleshly role models. Yahushua is our true pattern. He's our spiritual role model. He's our everything. Okay. We don't want to lose sight of Yahushua. But I'm just saying, as far as being obedient and fighting the flesh, battling with the flesh daily, Enoch and Elijah can be our role models, as well as Eleazar. We get tidbits about him as well, as we continue to walk in these fleshly bodies in our reality. See, in Yahuah's reality, we're ruach. We're no longer of the flesh. We're spirit. Okay, but in our reality, we're still in these fleshly bodies until they return to dust, right? Or unless Yahushua returns first. And so to understand the behavior, character, personality, and the relationship between Enoch and Yahuah, and Elijah and Yahuah, and Eleazar and Yahuah will help us, especially their prayers. We really need to study their prayers and pray like they did. They're extremely powerful. Look at what they produced. Fire, moon, fell from heaven on several occasions. The rain stopped and started. Powerful stuff, man. Enoch was allowed to, he had access to Yahuah, to where he could go there and bring the petition of the fallen Melikim who are chained up in darkness, and ask for Enoch to go there and ask Yahuah to save their children for them. Although he answered no, still a powerful thought. Right? That Enoch could go there and say that to Yahuah and ask him that for those fallen messengers. Man, he must have been extremely close to Yahuah. And we need to get close to Yahuah too. So that's what this was all about, getting closer to Yahuah, and so we don't have to die. And if it's not the first death, perhaps we don't have to die the second death in our reality. If Yahuah wants us to remain until he comes back, so be it. If any of us can get that close to him, like Enoch and Elijah and Eleazar did, so be it. That's fantastic, man. But at least we can look forward to not having to die the second death by getting close to Yahuah, like those guys did. All right. So very powerful stuff. Hope you all liked it as much as I did. I'll see a lot of you tomorrow. Zoom at noon. We continue with our study in Romans. Should be a pretty good one. We're getting into 6, 7, and 8. Extremely powerful chapters. I don't know if we're even going to make it through them. They're so power packed. They're just amazing. The level of intensity and spirituality that's in 6, 7, and 8 Romans. So don't miss that. That's going to be one of the most probably important studies we've ever done together. So I'll see most of you there tomorrow. Zoom at noon, right here on Sparking Yahuah channel. 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Zoom at noon, right here on this channel. Everyone's invited. You don't have to be a member of any website or anything. It's all free. It's all wide open. Come one, come all, in the name of Yahushua. Thank you for coming into the chat room and chatting up a storm, leaving your comments and thoughts. They're extremely important to all of us. We are one body and with one head, Yahushua. And I don't know. About all I got to say, folks. Other than I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, yeah. I almost forgot. Lou White Live, September 23rd. Lou White Live here on this channel. He's going to be talking to us about the 3 appointed times this coming up this fall. The trumpets, Day of Atonement, and Tabernacles. Don't miss it. Very powerful presentation by Mr. White here live. Sparking Yahuah channel, September 23rd, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss it. Other than that, remember to stay in love with Yahushua. So long, beloved of Yahuah. So long, everybody.